Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Omakase. It is episode number 244, and I am back here with Chris Samsa. Hello, Chris.
Hello. I somehow find my way talking to you anytime Naito has a major victory. So we talked after Wrestle Kingdom 2020. I think we were all half asleep, but we did that instant reaction. This is a little less instant, but here we are again. So happy to be here. And happy to be here on such a momentous occasion for you.
Yeah, the Omakase from before the pandemic. It feels like a million years ago.
We did a group show, right?
Yeah, I remember it was like a group live show right after the Dome.
It was like 5 a.m. I'm like dead.
But yeah, so we're back here on this podcast. If you have forgotten about Wrestling Omakase, I guess that's understandable, but for some reason, I go to Rich Craich. I messaged him on Slack the other day. First of all, people kept asking me, I'm not saying this as a humble brag, just trying to explain why this show continues to exist. People ask me like, John, you have to do audio because Naito's going to win the G1. Like, people started asking me this like weeks ago, and I was like, well, I guess I could do it. I mean, I'm watching every single G1 match anyway. I may as well do some hashtag content. But, like, you know, it's just like, so I'm like, okay, well, I can do it. And then I was like, you know what would be funny? I did exactly one episode in 2022 when Naito got into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and me and the famous Mongo _ebooks went on and just completely trashed every critic of Naito getting the Hall of Fame, as they deserved. because he was such an obvious Hall of Fame. I mean, look, sometimes I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be so hard on people, blah, blah, blah. The fucking idiots who thought Tetsuya goddamn Naito did not belong in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, I probably didn't go hard enough on them, if anything. But anyway, so we came back together to do that episode, and that was like, I don't know, last October or whatever. I was like, you know what would be really funny is if I keep Wrestling Omakase going by only doing exactly one episode per year. That would be funny to me. I mean, maybe it's funny to nobody else but me, but it would amuse me. So I DM Mr. Rich Crage, of course, the overlord here of this entire Voice of Wrestling podcasting network and website. And I was like, Rich, last year you told me, you know, it'd be totally fine to continue just doing random Omakases when I feel like it. How about I do one for after the G1? Would you still be willing to upload to the feeds and everything? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? So here we are. Rich, for some reason, is willing to have a podcast on his network that records one time per year related to when Tetsuya Naito does something, I guess. I guess that means, I mean, I could do the 2024 episode right after the Dome, right?
Yeah.
Because he's now going to main event the Dome. And get
I was
that
going to say, you have to do it at different times every year now. You can't repeat for as long as you can make it. Like, you can do, this is the post G1, right? So you're going to have to pick different little moments in the year. Otherwise, people are going to start to expect it. I mean, you can't have that.
Exactly. So we do it. We did last year's in the fall when Naito got into the Hall of Fame. We're doing this year's when he won the G1 for the first time in 6 years, and we could do next year's when he wins in the main event of the Tokyo Dome, probably for the first time, and definitely main events the Wrestle Kingdom for the first time in 3 years. Not the Tokyo. I almost said the Tokyo Dome, but he made event the Tokyo Dome this year. So, or did he? Depends if you want to count that Shono match or not, I guess. But
yeah.
Either...
Oh God. I forgot about that.
I know. It's like, did he main event the Tokyo Dome this year? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you wanna, if we want to get it out of the way,
you'll be in Tokyo.
I will
buzzing.
be in Tokyo, buzzing
from your very close seats.
Yeah, third row that I spent way too much money on, but anyway.
But now it all lines up.
I am like I'm not that good at a lot of stuff, folks. Okay, but one thing I am very, very good at is picking a time to go to Japan way before anyone knows who will be in the main event. That it turns out to be Tetsuya Naito, because I pulled it off 2016. I booked that trip well before Naito won the New Japan Cup, and well before he won we knew he was going to challenge for the IWGP title and win it at Invasion Attack 2016. 2017, I decided to go to that G1 again, well before we knew he was going to be in the finals with Kenny Omega and win it. And 2019 Dominion, okay, he only got the semi-main event, but he still won. So I still saw him beat Kota Ibushi for the Intercontinental title.
And that was a great match.
I was going to say, not just a great match, but like I feel like an all-time memorable match too, because that was the German suplex apron match that made so many people lose their minds. So
one of two.
That's true, actually. So all 3 times I pick a trip where Naito is in a really big major match, wins a major title, and this time I had friends really pressuring me to go in the winter of this past year and obviously that would have meant I went to this 2023 Wrestle Kingdom, which I always lose track of the number. What is it? It was 16, right? I think, or 17?
Yes. Next one is 18.
Next one's 18, so this was 17. So I would have been at Wrestle Kingdom 17, and obviously, I would have seen Kenny and Ospreay. I wouldn't complain about that, but the main event would have been Okada beating Jay White, which is like, I mean no disrespect to the Okada fanboys. I like Okada. He's not my favorite wrestler of all time like Naito is. It's not the same thing. So I almost went on that trip. And I would not have gone 2 years in a row. I almost let my friends, some of my quote-unquote IRL friends talk me into going for that Wrestle Kingdom and, for that winter. And I finally was like, I just want to give them another... Like, the deciding factor for me was I wanted to give them another year in Japan to be hopefully more normal, which I think was also the right call. Because, you look,
the Wrestle Kingdom was close, but probably not what it'll be next year.
And the rest of the country, I don't think was that close to normal.
Sure. That I'm sure is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like it's really getting to the point where it's pretty normal now. I mean, you could just see the, not to get into any kind of debate, but you can see the lack of mass in the crowd, increasingly. So yeah, I mean, it's just I think I definitely made the right decision to go to this upcoming Wrestle Kingdom, and once again chose one where Tetsuya Naito won the G1 and will presumably, with all due respect to Jeffrey Cobb, presumably be main eventing the Tokyo Dome. So
against Sonata, probably.
Probably.
Which is also sort of interesting. But and good for you. Proud of you. Happy for you. But if you had gone this year, you would have been one of the few people that was probably in the building for both Omega and Ospreay matches, right? Because you went to Toronto, right? That would be a nice bragging point. But
that is true. I did go to Forbidden Door.
So, but I think you've probably got the Naito thing is just, it's remarkable for you. It's like you have a homing beacon that just like tells you what's going to happen with this man. So
yeah, I mean the one I missed was 2020, but but I also missed 2018, which is like I somehow knew after he won that G. I mean, it just worked. Obviously, in reality, it's just like, okay, I went to the 2017 G1, so I'm not going to go again in January 2018. And then the same thing, in 2019, I went to the 2019 G1, so I'm not going to go again in January, or 2019 Dominion, so I'm not going to go again in January 2020. But it really worked out for the 2018 one, at least.
That would have hurt.
That. Yeah.
That would have been some feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it was plenty of feelings just watching it at home. So
yeah.
I can't even imagine in the building. But yeah, so Naito won the G1. I've heard reports, Chris. I don't know if you've heard this. It's a thing that's been going around. Some people claim that Mr. Naito was, quote, washed, or washed up, as it were. I believe he had 2 matches, though, that were pretty well received at the end of those G1 Climax.
I mean, really, 3 in a row.
That's true. That is true.
Well, not 3 in a row. 3 out of 4. That really, really seemed to get the juices flowing. So yeah, I hear less. I've heard less Naito is washed than, say, Tanahashi or even 2020 Okada, where some people were really, really in on Okada being on a down cycle in 2020, which was in retrospect comical. But yeah, heard a lot. Yeah, I mean, Naito had not been featured for a little while, and he was kind of just laying low and honestly letting all the other LIJ guys kind of do their thing really for the last couple of years. And I think he reminded us, I said it on Keeping It Strong Style just an hour ago, Tetsuya Naito like woke up one day towards the back end of this year's G1 Climax, and he remembered who the fuck he is. And he was like, you know what? I'm Tetsuya Naito. So I'm going to go like do the thing that I do really well, which is like get a bunch of people behind me and leverage that to great pro wrestling matches. And you know what? That's exactly what he did for really 3 of his last 4 nights. The Tanahashi match I thought really was leveraging those vibes, as I'll say. And then both nights in Ryogoku, that building was just absolutely enamored with him. And he wasn't exactly facing, great big heels, right? He was facing, Ospreay and Okada, a couple of guys that kind of live in the middle, sort of, I guess, but they're both kind of face leaning. Yeah. And man, those buildings were all in on Naito. And you know what?
I'll be fair to Will and say he got a lot of cheers too. Like
that's true.
Cheers.
It was way more split.
Yeah.
Than the Okada match, but I think it was still heavy Naito.
It was still heavy Naito. Like, especially as the match went on, it got more heavy Naito. But early on, I mean, it probably was like 60-40 Ospreay, if anything. And I think they both looked surprised in the start of that match. But it got more and more towards Naito throughout the match. It reminded me a lot of, and this is not just me. I mean, I saw this comparison in, Japanese Twitter, Western Twitter. It reminded me a lot of the Naito Omega 2017 final, where like,
sure.
Just Kenny had a huge number of supporters there, and being in the building, I could, I was sitting right next to a bunch of them, and they just, I still never forget how they looked at me like almost betrayed, they're like, you're a white person, you're supposed to be cheering for Kenny, like we are. But like the Bullet Club / Kenny people and sitting right next to me, just like, yeah, they looked like betrayed by me, which I thought was funny. But yeah, that was like, it reminded me a lot of Naito Kenny, where like Ospreay also had like a lot of supporters, but it definitely got more and more pro Naito as the match went on. Naito Okada, that was just like, I don't know, 80-20 Naito, 90-10.
Yeah, I mean,
like every time
really,
the Okada people try to do anything, they got shouted down.
They just got washed out, and it was like the whole match. They just didn't stop cheering Naito. I think they're still doing the chant. It was wild. It was back to the peak. It felt so much like pre-pandemic New Japan in Ryogoku. I mean, that's just such a special building for them, and when they can get hot in that building, it is just, there's nothing beats it. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I do want to say, because I don't want anybody to take it out of context, I'm not saying Okada's unpopular, but it's like, he's the guy who, he gets rooted against a lot because he's the ace and he wins all the time, just like Tanahashi did back in the day. And, the Okada fans are not going to be desperate for victory the way the Naito fans are. It's just how it's always going to be when the guy, between the amount of stuff that Okada has accomplished and the fact that he just was champion earlier this year, the fact that he won 2 G1s in a row before this. I mean, you can't find anyone on Twitter, really complaining that Okada lost, because it's like, how could you? Like you've won. I don't want to say you've won everything, but you've basically won everything. So it just doesn't make any sense for, like, the Okada fans are just not going to be, as fervent, it's like really like going crazy trying to get Okada to win as the Naito fans are. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, to put my spin on it, in their careers, Kazuchika Okada has won 101 singles main events, and Naito, mind you, Naito is next on the list. He has won 50.
Yeah. So,
like, that's the level of success we're talking about here, right? And above that is Tanahashi with 122, but he's, very, very slow on the uptake there. But yeah, I mean, like, that's the top 3 for main event wins of active New Japan wrestlers. And, when you cut it in half, once you get past Okada, that says something about the level that Okada's been at and then the level Naito's been at. Now, nothing to be ashamed of. It's kind of fun that Naito has kind of the role he has, but statistically speaking, the Okada fans shouldn't be clamoring for those wins quite the same way. So but that's kind of the fun of it. Naito gets to stretch out his stories a little bit longer, and we're not totally into it just yet, but this really does feel a lot like Naito's version of Tanahashi's 2018 G1 run.
Right.
So
I think a lot of people, if Naito wins that title at Wrestle Kingdom, which I don't think it's a hot take to say he probably will, I think a lot of people will be wondering if he's going to get beat at New Beginning in February, the same way that Tanahashi, it happened to Tanahashi twice with Okada and Jay White. So I think you see a lot of people speculating that maybe Yuya Uemura could be a candidate to come back and do that. Some people were waiting for Yota Tsuji to turn on him, or you could even have somebody like Shingo. I mean, I feel like Takagi-gun is a running joke now, but like, there's a lot of possibilities there at Naito winning, and not necessarily being guaranteed any kind of long reign. So we'll definitely have to wait and see what happens there. But that is the future. In the present, let's talk about these 2 G1 final shows. First of all, we're going to go back through the entire G1 and like talk about everyone's G1 and kind of give little individual reviews of what they did in their block matches. But I figure we might as well talk about the semifinals and the finals first while it's fresh in everybody's mind. I'm not going to go through the whole cards, but I want to highlight a couple things in the undercards. First of all, Kaito Kiyomiya. He was in the opener of both these shows, and on the semifinal show on Saturday, he and Hayata, the GHC Junior Champion, defeated the reunited team of Tenzan and Master Wato. And Tenzan, he was so incredibly over in the Sumo Hall to the point where it produced a pretty amazing Kaito quote where he was like, in the post-match, he was like, I said before this G1 that I was going to be the star, but tonight Tenzan was the star. And yeah, it was just a very funny quote to dunk on because, man, Kaito Kiyomiya, I don't know. It's one of these things where, like, Kaito is an amazing in-ring wrestler. You know, he showed that in this G1. I don't think anyone would argue with that. So I feel really bad, like, making fun of him because it's like, you know, I think he's great. I would love to see him jump to New Japan and succeed. I would love to see him, you know, succeed in Noah. But he's booked by Noah so incredibly poorly. And the fact that they let him come to New Japan, have the kind of record he ended up finishing with, you know, finishing, what, like 5th in his block, right? Wasn't it? Like 5th? 6th in his block. I overstated it.
6th of 8. He was even in a 3-way tie at 6. And he was last in that 3-way tie. So
they made sure he finished behind Umino and Narita while still tying in points with them, and he finished behind Yoda. So the only people he finished ahead of were Gabe Kidd and Chase Owens. That's it. Yeah. So like I honestly want to know, like, I want to be in the room for this. Like, I wish I could have been in the room for when New Japan's explained to Noah what they have planned for Kaito. And they're like, yeah, he's going to get wins over Chase Owens and Yota Tsuji. And he's going to lose or draw to everybody else. And he's going to finish 6th in his block. And then we're going to put him in a bunch of opening tags, mostly teaming with a young lion. And he gets a big win over Tenzan on the semifinal show. And we'll let him team with the GHC Junior Champion, you know, who everybody seems to hate, Hayata. And I'm like, why would you say yes to that if you're Noah?
But
like,
he gets to bring the young lion with him back to Noah.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
That's it. I mean, that's the deal. It's all about it's just head count over at Noah. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. It's just baffling. Like, it's baffling sort of on both sides because, like, what's the point? Right? Like,
I don't agree with that. If you're New Japan and you got the chance to take the top star of your closest competitor, you have the chance to take the top star of your closest competitor because they are, like, you know, they're also owned by a giant conglomerate, they're a heavyweight promotion, and you can say, we have this top young star, we can put him in our G1. He just won their version of the G1 last year on top of everything else, which is incredible. That makes this even more incredible to me. And we get to take him, put him in our tournament. He makes our tournament better because he's a great in-ring wrestler. And at the same time, we get to show that he is fucking below not just our top stars like we showed with Okada, but even like our next group of guys that haven't really done anything yet. Like, you know, the Umino, Narita, Tsuji level, you know, the guys coming up. And establish him at this level below all of our guys. I mean, that's a home run if you're New Japan, right? I mean, I get it.
It depends on how much you believe the we want the health of the business to be, you know, strong. Narrative. you're like I don't. So okay, so since we're on this right now, I kind of have maybe it's a tinfoil hat thing, or maybe it's just me retconning how it all went down. But I kind of have this theory that Kiyomiya's kick to Okada's face, and then Okada going just like ape shit on him in that tag match, was off script. Where like Kiyomiya and like everyone thought it was leading to something, but really Okada just like beat the hell out of him because he got kicked in the face, and it was never going to lead to anything.
And then they had to do the match, and then Okada squashed him.
Yeah, well, then Okada was pissed, so he was like, I'm just going to squash this dude, and we're never going back to it. So, I don't know. Part of me feels like there was some groundwork laid, but then that happened, and then they bailed on it, but they still had him locked in for the G1, so they just went with it. Because it's just so confusing.
They sure didn't do any angle to set anything up.
No,
in the final
nothing.
Day.
Nothing.
His only thing is, I'm taking Ryuhei Oiwa back to Noah with me. Great, buddy. Maybe you can come back for the Dome and wrestle in the opener with Oiwa again. It's a tag team.
And Oiwa can turn on him as he gets out of Young Lionhood. Like, you know, like... That's where...
Would it surprise you at this point?
No.
And then Oiwa beats him at New Beginning cleanly or something?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like, oh, does the check clear? Great. Because, I mean, what the fuck are they doing?
It's a great question.
I'm gonna give you the only reason why this may have made sense for Noah. They are 4 nights into their N1 victory so far. Here are their attendances so far. Night 1, Yokohama Budokan. The same building New Japan did 2,300, I believe. Was it 2,300 this year, I think?
I can pull it up.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. It was in that range. It was like
that sounds like the right range. Yeah.
So 2,300 for New Japan, 804 for Noah for night 1 of their tournament, which is always a big deal. Nights 2 through 4 in Korakuen, 622, 661, 926. They can't break 1,000 people for their signature tournament of the year, and 2 of them did 600 at Korakuen Hall, the same building where New Japan did 14 something, which was a sellout.
1472.
Which was a sellout because they didn't open one of the balconies. So, they are so far below New Japan that maybe we have to take that director seriously when he was basically said we need the exposure and we need to get Kaito out there. Like, if you're that far below and you're that desperate, maybe that's just what you have to do. I don't know. I mean, I
don't know.
I
still think
that really makes
you would
sense.
just, but wouldn't you just put him on the year shows?
But their whole point was
I know.
We could
I know
put
what
them on
they
our
said.
shows, yeah. And it's
but they're not going to sell more tickets or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think you guys understand what you're doing here.
I don't think you should say that out loud anyway, even if it's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly don't tell. Yeah, this guy sucks, and he can't sell any tickets, so
he doesn't draw. So we're gonna let him not draw somewhere else. Like what?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's all real weird. I hate to try to get too far into it because I don't know anything. But like, how do you as the wrestler, Kiyomiya, like, how do you go to New Japan and say, like, yeah, this is good. Like, I'll lose whatever. Like, and how does Noah say, like, yeah, do whatever. Like, put him in your final or don't. Like, put him in your final. Don't let him out of the block. Have him finish, like,
place.
next to last, like, or close to next to last. Like, do whatever you want to do. Like, wherever you see him. Like, and then they were probably like, oh, it's going to be just, like, a big schmaz in the middle of the block, and Noah was probably like, sounds great. And they're like, sounds great, we gotta go. And they were like, okay, like, never mind, I guess I won't explain the details. I mean, if you think Tony Khan didn't know the booking of every Eddie Kingston match, I would be shocked.
And we can talk about some fucking issues Mr. Khan is having booking that promotion, but he fucking made sure that A. Kingston was going to finish with a winning record. He wasn't making it on the block, but A. Kingston didn't finish with no fucking 500 record. He finished 4-3. So, you know.
And the three were no slouches. Like,
yeah, he lost to who? David Finlay, Shingo, right?
Yes.
Or no, he beat Shingo. I think he beat Shingo, didn't he?
Oh, I got the tables here. Let me
Okay.
see. Boom, boom, boom. Where are we? C Block, Eddie Kingston, lost to Ishii, lost to Finlay, lost to Evil.
Okay, there you go. So he had
two, yeah. So one clean loss to Ishii, and we know how everyone feels about Ishii, and some shenanigan losses to, like, some AEW style losses to Finlay and Evil.
I think Finlay beat him pretty clean.
I think that was pretty clean, but it's
the other
still,
one he lost.
The aura is there.
Yeah, the other one he lost. So 2 clean losses and a typical Evil bullshit, / AEW bullshit finish. So, yeah. I mean, like, he definitely was not booked like no geek.
But super reasonable booking for both sides. Yeah. A fine tournament for Eddie Kingston. But that he went over there and Tony Khan was like, well, tell me how he's going to get booked. Like, where is he going? Who is he losing to? Yeah. That's the important part. The important part's not necessarily like who you're going to beat, because, those could be great or they could be, kind of throwaways. But the important part is who's he losing to. And, those are pretty agreeable considering where those guys kind of live. So, I don't know. It's baffling. I don't even know how to dissect it. I don't think anyone does. Even Kevin Kelly and to a lesser extent Chris Charlton are just like, what? Like, what is happening here? And just like digging in on it.
Yeah, their level of confusion is very funny. I mean, they're just like, especially they're just like, what is this? What is going on? Like, basically was their whole tone. Like, why would they do this? So.
At first they were like, this is going to be the story of the tournament,
Yeah.
And he was not the story of the tournament. That's for sure.
I don't really see anything else on the. There was the other big thing on the semifinal night, because the final night had a million things. The other thing on the semifinal night, I guess, would have been Hanare attacking Eddie Kingston after his match, which will set up a strong title match. I don't know when they're going to do that. Maybe they'll do it in AEW. It's possible, because there's no like US show till the end of October, so unless you count the Impact one. So yeah, I mean maybe they'll do it in AEW. Maybe they'll even do it like All In Zero. Oh no, he probably has a match for All In. Maybe All Out. I don't know. Do you have any?
No, I don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's possible they do it in AEW. I guess is the
probably.
Yeah, I could just be on a Dynamite.
Just seems like they have the most activity coming up.
Yeah. But yeah, so you have Eddie and Hanare who are going to be feuding and having a strong title match. I don't think there was anything else really on the semifinal night besides obviously the two semifinals, and the semi-main event. Now the way these two main events worked to me, was Okada versus Evil. If Evil beats Okada, that would have felt almost like a spoiler for the main event, right?
Sure.
Because you can see them doing Evil Naito as a final, but there's basically no universe where they were going to do Evil Ospreay as a final. Doesn't make any sense. Evil Naito as a final, would have been like, here's the 2020 feud with but people can make noise. I mean, that would have been. I feel like that was a possible final. If Okada, I mean, obviously people would have complained a lot about it, especially over here, but I feel like it was a possible final. If Okada beats Evil, which is what ended up happening, then the main event could go either way, because obviously they could have done Okada Ospreay, as a final for the second year in a row. So Okada winning here to me made the main event much more dramatic. So in that way, it was the right decision. Besides the fact that it resulted in a classic match anyway. But yeah, Okada beats Evil here. It went 18:08. I had a lot of fun with this match. I thought this was pretty awesome. I went 4 stars flat on it. I liked watching Okada struggle with the House of Torture and the chaos, never save a single person policy, almost coming back to bite him. But then Okada just kind of fights everybody off in the end and wins anyway. And the crowd was super into it, which always helps these House of Torture matches when the crowd is super into the match. And Evil had one of the coolest low blows in wrestling history at one point in this match when he did the Rainmaker spin into the low blow, which just like, I watched that fucking spot like 100 times. That was just such a cool spot. The Rainmaker wrist clutch into the low blow, just awesome. But yeah, this match was quite fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure the type of person who hates every House of Torture match hated this too. But I had a really good time. But that's not me. That's people who have follow me on Twitter and stuff know. So I really enjoyed this match. I don't know what you thought of it, but
I think the shenanigans were a little less here. I think they usually are a little less during the Okada matches. I sort of think Okada won't, if he can poke a hole in it, he won't do it. So I think he's really thoughtful about that instead of guys who just kind of go with whatever they're given, or guys that feel like it enhances the match, like the Shingo match prior to this was just like a whole mess and just like kept going and going and going and going. And I think the Okada match was so much less than that it was this kind of palatable level, and it didn't really lead to the finish. They broke it all out and made sure that the finish wouldn't be affected by that. So, the thing that I did see during this match that I thought was great was that Evil hit his finish. He hit the Everything is Evil. And honestly, it's Everything is Evil is kind of a killer. It's one of those finishes that doesn't usually get a kick out.
People don't kick out.
Yeah, you don't kick out of it, but Okada did. And then looking back at the match and checking some stuff on Twitter, New Japan eventually called it a left-sided Evil. So it was Evil doing it from his weak side. So that was his version of, everyone's kind of got like a lesser version of their finish. Okada's got the short arm Rainmaker. Naito's kind of got the moving Destino. I guess Evil's version of that is to do it with his weak side. So it's sort of a weak side, everything is evil, which is kind of what gave them the out to let Okada kick out of it.
Naito has 2 of them, too, because he has the counter Destino, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, Naito's got a lot of different... If he doesn't do the full arm wrap-up, that's not a full Destino, but they do kind of still do the same thing. It's like Okada's got the spinning Rainmaker and the short arm Rainmaker and the, So I thought that was an interesting wrinkle, too, and, just being thoughtful enough to do that in an Evil match, I think is enough for me to say that they did a pretty good job. And I, again, same as you, I know everyone is going to dunk on it because it's Evil, but I don't know. I had a great time. I had a great time with the last couple of Evil matches in this tournament.
Well, yeah, you were talking, I think, off air that you really liked the Evil Shingo one, and I did too. Look, this is the kind of thing where when I'm on my little podcast soapbox here, I can say whatever I want, and I don't have to argue with people like on the Discord. So I'm just going to say it. Evil and the House of Torture is the same kind of interference bullshit they do in AEW, except it's actually good. They actually time it well. They actually do interesting spots most of the time, and Evil is actually a good wrestler. It's like people will complain. Some of the same people will complain about the House of Torture shit in New Japan, and then they'll turn around and watch an AEW show where every fucking match has some interference bullshit finish, but not in a thoughtful way or exciting way. Just one member of the Outcast got up on the apron and did a little hairspray into the face, and that was the finish. Or the QTV guys ran out and distracted the guy, and he got rolled up. The House of Torture shit is almost never that basic or that boring. It's not just some little crutch so the guy can get away with not doing a clean job. It's this big elaborate thing that draws great heat, and usually when the babyface finally overcomes it, like Okada did here, it usually ends up feeling great. We're just whoever remembers when a babyface overcomes the Outcasts, or QTV. No one cares. No, it's not like that's a big deal. But Okada overcoming House of Torture here feels like a big deal because House of Torture actually has some fucking effort behind it, and it's not just a bullshit finish for the sake of doing a bullshit finish. So,
they've established it as a threat, and it's one way to establish a wrestler as a threat is to have it work every now and then. But in my lane, here's what I pointed out as we headed towards this particular Evil match. Evil was 3-10 in G1 Climax main events. He hadn't won one since 2020. So all of those matches were the reason that these last couple of matches worked at all. And it ultimately it's establishing Evil as a credible threat to take on Sonata as a part of this bigger story that they're telling with Sonata, that Sonata is kind of exercising his past, right? He's going through all of the previous LIJ or LIJ adjacent and guys, and he teamed extensively with Evil. They wrestled in 430 matches together, and only 43 of those are as opponents now. So 90% of the time he was teaming with Evil for the first 6-7 years he was in this company. So it makes sense that we're getting an Evil title challenge, and that Evil was able to beat Sonata in the the quarterfinals, which were we don't necessarily have to go all the way back to, but all of that established that everyone expected Shingo to win because Evil always loses. So then at least you've got a surprise to leverage and work with and have a good time with. And then, you push them through a little bit further because you're New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's what you kind of do. You kind of habitually step just one little tiptoe over the line to make people feel a certain way. I think it's great.
Does this anyway. And it's
right.
That's the other thing that gets me sometimes, the way people talk. It's there's so much bullshit in New Japan now. I'm okay. What you're talking about, Evil. I know David Finlay did it in the quarterfinals. He really barely did it in the rest of the tournament. Toru Yano, who's comedy, and Kenta, who's mostly comedy. You're talking 4 guys out of 32, basically. Is there somebody I'm missing that does bullshit? I don't think there is. I mean, I guess Gabe Kidd and
here and there.
Coughlin.
Yeah,
Gabe Kidd and Coughlin, but they don't even do interference or anything really most of the time.
Their matches just never start.
Yeah.
They almost did more of the Bad Luck Fale thing.
Yeah.
Than even anybody else, but I didn't find any of it to be egregious, and I think Evil really poured on, but you know what? Now that the buildings can cheer, I don't know. There's enough to work with there.
Yeah. Especially for a guy to do it, not the entire roster. And it's like you're still getting, amazing clean fight main events all the fucking time. I mean, the main event of this show, Naito Will Ospreay, completely clean fight, 5-star match. I guess not to give it away, but I mean, not that I think people will be shocked that that's what I gave that match anyway. Main event of the quarterfinals, Okada and Zack Sabre Jr., completely clean fight, 4.25-star match. I mean, you're still getting those type of matches in most key situations. It's like, okay, the semi-main and the quarterfinals and the semifinals had a bunch of bullshit. It's still, it's still very contained to certain things that you could easily skip if it really bothers you that much, and still have plenty of matches in New Japan in key spots that are good. Like, there's zero doubt in your mind that Naito versus Will Ospreay is going to be a completely clean fight. There's zero doubt Okada and Zack is going to be a completely clean fight. And again, not to do the AEW comparison again, I don't know what the fuck's going to be a clean fight match in AEW or won't be. Could be, the BCC could get involved. They could not get involved. It's complete. It's much more random. So, it's just to me, there's almost like no comparison there when you're talking about like amount of bullshit. I feel like some people and some pundits go really over the top when they talk about how much bullshit there actually is in New Japan, and that does kind of annoy me, especially if they have no problem with it in AEW or in other promotions, which. Obviously, I not even worth mentioning WWE. I don't even know. WWE could be 100% clean fight these days for all I know. So I have no clue because I don't watch it, but I'm guessing it isn't.
I like to just help people remember that they are watching professional wrestling. Like that's all it is to me. It's all part of the day, part of a pro wrestling show. And especially when you've got 8 matches a night, which is what we had for a lot of this G1, you gotta mix up the finishes, and one way to do that is to have one guy who's always doing something a little bit different than everybody else. So, we're not watching UFC. You're not just gonna get knockouts every match. So I don't know. It doesn't bother me. Would I prefer it to be a little more creative? Yeah, right. Like it's a little samey, but I don't know. That also kind of establishes it as how where it's headed. you know what's going to happen. So
yeah, the only thing that ever gets me sometimes is some of the ref bumps can look a little stupid. Sometimes it's executed well and sometimes it's executed poorly. Like if they're gonna do what they're gonna do, at least do it well, and that's all I ask, right? And that's it. That's the trick for me. And sometimes it's more creative, and sometimes like the Shingo match, it just kept going. Like it kept happening, and other people kept showing up and doing different things, and like that was fun for me because it was almost to the point of ridiculousness where you're just like, this is far too much. But now we've crossed this line where too much is actually for the better. Yeah.
So
like when Hiromu ran out of the crowd, and it's just like,
yeah,
you're not even on this tour at this point, sir.
And I've still got we've still got a pal just digging in on who didn't come out. So I mean, but I get it. I mean, where was Tama Tonga?
I don't know.
Kayfabe, he was in the showers. He had to be, right?
He's a good little baby face now. He wasn't going to get involved, I guess.
Yeah, he couldn't see himself. He had to be prepped for that match.
He didn't work out the math. I don't know.
Yeah, he was on the bus. No one told him until they told everybody else. Yeah. So, yeah, that's my spiel about Evil, I guess. I think he's fine. I think the Okada match was very good. Yeah. And didn't necessarily get in the way of
didn't overstay its welcome either.
No, it was quick. It was the babyface of the match won. And I guess that's helpful too, to people being like, oh, okay, I get it now.
The main event of this show was Tetsuya Naito defeating Will Ospreay in 29-58 to also advance to the final. Obviously, we put over Naito a lot on this show. I think everybody knows how much I love Tetsuya Naito. I'll give that Will Ospreay guy his flowers because I have 3 5-star matches with Will Ospreay in 2023. The 2 Kenny Omega matches at the Tokyo Dome and in Toronto at Forbidden Door, and now this match. He's having a pretty good 2023. Can't really deny that Will Ospreay is, having a hell of a year this year with these really high-end matches. And, he and Naito here, I mean, they just had the kind of match. I loved both their matches last year. The G1 semifinal, I think I went 4.5 on, and then the U.S. title match in Power Struggle November, or whatever they called it last year, because the names are all different.
Battle Autumn.
There you go, Battle Autumn. 4 3/4 on that one, so I like that one even more. But, obviously those are 2 clap crowds still, and just having this screaming crowd, is going to elevate things a little bit. And then they just did so many spots in this match where, watching this unspoiled, I could, and again, and the tension of who's going to win this one again was so much higher for me than for the final, which I'll get to why I was pretty fucking sure by the time the final hit the ring that Naito was going to win. Whereas here, I thought Naito was going to win, but I was not. I would not have described myself as certain at all. I could have easily seen Ospreay winning and doing the rematch with Okada in the final. So they really did have me on the edge of my seat. They had me biting on near falls. They had me being like, okay, is this going to be it? Is Ospreay going to beat him? Obviously, just the speed in which they worked at certain points was incredible. Naito worked this. We all know Ospreay is amazing and that he can work at that speed. Naito worked this at a speed I was not entirely sure was still possible for him at this point. Even being as big of a Naito fan and apologist as I am, he still worked quicker than I thought he still could in 2023 at parts of this match. Obviously, the big thing at the end was where he got knocked out in that kick by Ospreay, or knocked loopy, at least it looked like, and Ospreay had to kind of coach him through the end and really get him, kind of give himself a Destino, and he was calling spots pretty loudly and stuff, which I thought the English announcers did a great job covering for. I forgot what they said, something like he's taunting him, or
Charlton just started screaming. Yeah, he basically was like, he's taunting him, and it was just it was this perfect cover.
Yeah.
It was as good as you could do, at least.
And, I could see some people, I could see why some people refuse to give it 5 because of that. I thought, first of all, Ospreay did an amazing job covering for something that he caused. I mean, he did kick the guy in the head, but he did such an amazing job getting Naito through the finish of that match with really, you got a guy who was knocked loopy, and you really didn't have anything that you would reasonably call a botch. He collapsed a couple times, but it both looked fine and also kind of played into the story of the match, where they had done that knockout tease right before that. So it didn't feel out of place at all to me for when Naito was collapsed. I did not realize that there was a shoot knockout or a shoot Naito getting knocked loopy, at least until the spot calling became very obvious. It did not connect for me at first. So when Naito just was kind of slumping down or falling down, it didn't connect for me there. I thought they were just selling still. So, it really worked out well in that way. And then the other part of it is, it just added to the drama for me and the stress I was under trying to hope Naito would win this fucking thing and stay alive to main event the Dome that I'm going to, where I was are they gonna have to stop this thing, basically? So I don't know, it added to the match for me. It honestly did, and which is why I still had no trouble giving this 5. But if people deducting a 1/4 star or whatever the fuck for it, I get it. But to me, it's still a 5-star match, even with that, and just an absolutely incredible match. I would say I go back and forth in my head. I think it's probably my number 2 match of the year right now, behind Kenny and Ospreay from the Dome. But it's really, it's really close. I'm gonna have to rewatch both of them to really, along with the other 3 5-star matches I had this year, which is an incredibly high number for me. But yeah, I mean, like, it's really close, but I think I would put Kenny Ospreay just barely ahead of it. But this match was incredible.
Yeah, and I was just fully into like the suspension of disbelief. Like that's where this match was so good leading up to whatever happened with Naito. I mean, he got kicked in the head. But I really didn't catch what was happening until I think he got up and he kind of collapsed. Like he kind of went back down. And whenever a wrestler's about to go and like I guess mount and kind of pummel a guy who's down on the ground, and the referee stops them and like puts them off to the corner, that's usually something that's actually happening. It's usually not something that I find is written into the kind of path of the match. So that was the moment where I was like, meh, something might be up here. And then it was just super impressive of both guys to just get to the finish that they wanted to do, which was sort of an incredible feat just in its own way. And really, you know, on the shoulders of Will Ospreay, both figuratively and literally, he drove the bus, and he knew. And I think usually as you're going through a finish, the winner is taking everyone through. At least that's my understanding or my perception of how it's typically operated. And it was very interesting to see the guy who was trying to take all the moves also call all the spots. So you know, that little peek under the hood, and then but the announcing team doing a good job of trying to cover up what they knew everyone at home was hearing. I thought that was just so impressive. Just masterful work to navigate a really interesting and challenging situation. But I think some of that was also their suspension of disbelief. Like in that world, these things were actually happening right in front of them, and they were able to, you know, communicate a sports-like atmosphere and a sports-like feel to these moments, which I thought was just so interesting. This was my favorite match of the tournament for sure. Possibly, you know, this may be the most memorable match of the year that I have, because I'm going to remember a lot of what happened in the match, a lot of it because it was very unique, and I think that's more than I could say about both Ospreay Omega matches, which were probably my 1 and 2 prior to that. So this may end up my match of the year, because I don't have a notebook or a spreadsheet. I have a lot of spreadsheets, but not that one. I have more spreadsheets than I should have, but I don't keep like track of stars. So I really, when it comes to match of the year, it's really just how well I remember a match. And, you know, I'll go back and rewatch some stuff, because I really do like to participate in some of the match of the year stuff. But this might be mine. It might end up mine, because I have a feeling it's going to be the most memorable match that happens this year for me. And you know, that I'm totally okay with that.
Ospreay too. I mean, the thing that's really helps his matches for me now, like his big matches, is how over he's gotten that hidden blade, where like he can pin people with that, and he always looks like he kills people with it, and he can hit it from any angle. So like he just, you know, kills Naito with it at one point in this match, and like, you know, they do some really great like running sequences based around dodging it and stuff, and like, you know, that could have just been the finish. I mean, you know, yeah. When you're watching it, you're just like, oh my god, is he actually gonna get the pin here? So yeah, I mean that always helps these matches a lot for me these days. You know, it also helped he got that top rope move that I don't remember what he calls it over. That's the one that's very similar to the leap of faith. Yeah, I think that might be it. Which, you know, he hit Naito with it in this match and ended up getting a 2 count, but you know, he beat plenty of people with it in the tournament. So I think including didn't he beat Finlay with it? Maybe.
I don't remember. He's got a lot of finishers now, though, which I think is really... I think it's cool. I think that's honorable.
So, but yeah, this match was amazing. Definitely enjoyed it a ton. And, you know, the semifinals ended strong here. Both semifinal matches were good, but this one was amazing. The only other thing from the show I forgot to mention earlier is they've been doing these Young Lion gauntlets, where the one Young Lion tries to beat all 3 of the other ones. And, you know, they don't air for some reason. I still don't really understand why. But in this case, one of them finally did it. Oleg Bolton managed to beat Oiwa, Nakashima, and Oscar Loibe in all in a row within like what? They have to do it within like 15 minutes, I think, right?
5 for each, yeah.
5 for each, yeah. So
he did the whole thing in 11.
Yeah, wow. So he the prize for that, I knew about the Yakiniku prize where he gets like, I don't know, something like $1,500 of yakiniku or something.
Yeah, a bunch of meat.
But I forgot yakiniku, if people don't know, is like basically you barbecue the meat in front of you. Basically, it's like it's basically like a gift card to a Japanese barbecue place. But he gets that win. But like I did not know that he got a New Japan World TV title shot off this too. Maybe they said that and I just forgot. But yeah,
I think it's been out there since they announced the challenge. But I think it was one of those things that just got easily forgotten because
it's been going on for like 6 months or something.
I mean, it's been on most of the big shows. They've been running through, and whoever knocked off the wrestler that was trying to win the gauntlet on the previous one got the next shot at the gauntlet, and this time it was Oleg. So
yeah, so
it's cool. I wish I could see it. I love watching these guys wrestle, but I don't, because you don't see Oleg as much as some of these other guys, but that's okay. I think we will soon because they're making space for him.
Yeah, so that's the big news for the next tour, which we'll get into all the stuff. They set up a lot of stuff for the next tour based on these, different units and, multiple matches for each unit pairing. So we'll get into that here in the final. So the final night from today, August 13th, again at Sumo Hall. Oh, the attendance numbers really quickly. I forgot to mention that. So for the show yesterday, where they were 2 per box, they did 6,579, which is like that would have been a decent pre-pandemic semifinal night number. Like that's comparable to a number they did in 2016 for Okada Tanahashi, where I think they did a 20 or 6,800 or something like that. Most of the the really good semifinal nights would do between 7,000 and 8,000 in that period, but it's comparable to a show with an Okada Tanahashi main event in 2016. So it's not exactly it's like a few hundred fans less than that. The finals on the 13th did 8,283, and that was for a show where it was 4 per box. So the semis were a little better than I was expecting. I would have guessed 5,500 probably, 5,000, 5,500, and they ended up coming in at over 6,500. The finals were a little worse than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting more 9,000, especially based on the seats being sold out on all the ticket sites I was looking at, except for the main box seats. But I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, but yeah, I expected that number to be higher, basically, than 8,283, and most of the final Sumo Hall nights, the really good ones did 10,000 plus. So it's still a little below that level, but I mean, you're talking 1,800 fans less than a 10,000 seat Sumo Hall sellout. So
they haven't done 10,000 since 2017.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't do much Ryogoku.
Yeah.
They had King of Pro Wrestling in 2018, 91.52, and they had
a horrible 3.
I mean, the Best of the Super Juniors final in 2019 did 76.50.
Yeah.
And then the King of Pro Wrestling in 2019, which I believe was Sonata Okada, was 95.73. So I mean, you're not all the way there, but you're also not all the way out of range either.
Yeah, and this is a point I was going to make. It's when you hear some people, again, and I'm not naming names, okay? But when you hear some people on Discords and shit talk about New Japan's attendance right now, they sound like they're talking about the fucking dark years. If you think this is the dark age, even before they did these 2 strong numbers at Ryogoku, if you think this is the dark age, you need to go back and watch some fucking 2008 and 2009 shows and see what the fucking dark age is like. And if you're a newer fan, and you cannot go by what it says on Cage Match, because those numbers were fake up until, I don't remember the exact date. I think it was mid-2015, I think was the exact date they switched to real. It was either mid-2015 or mid-2016. I can't remember which one. But they did not switch to real numbers until well into the Bushiroad eras, when they started reporting real numbers instead of the fake ones. So If you look up numbers from 08 or 09 and they look, they don't look that bad, trust me, there were way, way less people in the building. And it was very obvious when you actually turn it on and watch. And even the wrestlers have talked about it. I mean, I remember Makabe had a line pretty recently where he was talking about how, in some interview where he was talking about how Tanahashi was there with him when they were drawing in the hundreds of fans for some of these shows, and obviously was there, helped bring the company back to the level it eventually reached. But yeah, they were doing much worse in the mid to late 2000s, even into the early 2010s before Bushiro bought it and turned it around, than they're doing now. I mean, it's just, they were starting from a much lower place than they're starting right now. That's just, it's indisputable. If you're acting like this is the dark age, you're just wrong. I don't know. It's not a subjective thing. It's just, go back and watch. They had to run major title matches and major tournament finals in Korakuen Hall because that was the only place they could, make money doing it, or not lose money, I guess, doing it. So
yeah, and they haven't done a major title, like the top title in Korakuen since 2012.
Yeah, the last time was actually Okada Naito, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, the Okada Naito 2012 match right after Okada won the title. So, which is an amazing match, by the way. It's another amazing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to say that the little attendance rant there. So going through this card here, and there was a lot of stuff on this final today that was clearly setting up Step for Destruction. The opener did not, though. The opener was Kaito Kiyomiya and Ryohei Oiwa defeating Oscar Lurbe and Toru Yano in 7:47. It did set up Oiwa apparently going on his excursion to Noah, which taking an excursion in another Japanese company is very interesting. I don't know what I think of that idea yet. I guess we'll have to see. I did see shout out to Paul, of course, from the Emerald Flow show. I believe it was him. He made the joke either in the Slack or the Discord that famous promotion known for developing young talent, Pro Wrestling Noah. That's who you sending your young line to. It's yeah, I don't know about that one, guys. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Oiwa possibly doing his excursion in Noah?
I mean, it's happening. That's my understanding, is that he's going. But I think it's interesting. I think excursions might get a little shorter.
They're going to be shorter now.
Yeah. That's just my read on it. And
I think either Kadani or Obari
they basically said that's what they want. Yeah. But I think that's going to be true. So this Fujita trip to Australia, that's his excursion, or most of it, and maybe he'll dip his toe somewhere else too. And then the Oiwa time in Noah will be an excursion. So, and I what I wonder is if he's still going to be Black Trunks, right? Or is this where we start to see Oiwa's character develop? It might get me to dip in and check out some Noah, truthfully. Yeah. but that's me. I'm,
They
like
also just need to start. It's not even just the fact that the Kadani and Obari, want them to do this faster. They have so many young guys coming up that they apparently need to do this faster. I think I read there's 13 guys in the dojo right now. Some crazy number. Because there's the 3 guys who came from Okada's reality TV show in Japan. Okada had this reality TV show where guys got to try out, and 3 of them won spots. One of them is 15 years old, or I think he just turned 16 now.
Oh, geez.
He was 15 when he got the spot. One of them is 19 and one of them is 22. So these are young guys. But yeah, so that's 3 of them. And then I think I read there's 10 more, in the dojo training. So they have, I think it's a combination of the fact that New Japan is still coming off a very hot period. So, that's obvious. Whenever you have a hot period domestically, you're going to have more people that want to be wrestlers. That's just, logical, because they grew up, watching it and want to do it. But the other part of it is the rest of the Japanese scene is just at such a low level right now. We just talked about what kind of fucking competitor Noah is right now, that there's really nobody else that Dragon Gate has a lot of young guys too, and they're another company that recruits well. Noah's dojo does not recruit well at all, clearly. They have a really hard time breaking in young people. All Japan, they're a very low level promotion at this point, and they but they've still had more success recently than Noah at training young wrestlers and recruiting them. And you look at a guy like their champion right now, obviously Yuma Aoyagi is a great example of that. And God, what the hell is the name of the other young guy they have that everybody likes? Isn't he also a Yuma? Yuma Anzai.
Anzai, yeah.
So they have young talent, and they're ahead of Noah, but like again, just not to the same, just not like this amount though. So that's why I think you're at a period right now where like if you want to be a wrestler, I think New Japan is just obviously going to be where you want to be right now, and it's kind of resulted in this embarrassment of riches apparently for young wrestlers. So they're going to have to clear out space for these young lions to debut and take these spots and be the attendants and be the they can afford to have fast return on this right now. I guess what it comes down to. So
yeah, and I think
you can't graduate them if you don't have more ready to come be the fucking ring attendants and shit. I mean that's
it's very important.
Yeah,
it's very important work. Someone has to talk to Kevin Kelly when he's doing solo commentary too. So I
think they do help set up the ring and shit too. So
they actually, yeah, absolutely. They do all that stuff. So they fold the chairs for all I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so and Oiwa's been around a little bit, not quite 2 years. So it is about time, and he's got the look. So I'm cool with it, but we'll see what it looks like with Noah. We'll see if he comes out gimmicked or if he comes out, and we'll see how protected he is. Maybe that was the payoff, is that they can do whatever they want with Oiwa if we can do whatever we want with Kiyomiya.
Not a good trade, but anyway.
Not a great trade. Nope, not the same level. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm hopeful for shorter excursions. Just because I think most of the time once they get out and do some stuff and I think Ren Narita was just on excursion forever, and you almost forgot about him. And then I think intentionally we're not talking a lot about Yuya Uemura.
Well, no, obviously
he's going to be
he has left the company. Haven't you heard?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, that's why we don't talk about him. That's why we don't talk about him, because he's an Impact wrestler now. Yeah. Right, totally. Except he's not booked past September. But what do I know? So. That could mean nothing. It could just mean they need to clear dates or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, and also I think New Japan's in a phase where they're okay without. I mean, we saw it in this G1. This G1 was not about 2020 or 2023. Like, it was not about this year. This G1 is about 2026, 2025, 2027. Like, it's about that time frame where the seeds that have been planted for some of the rivalries that they're going to build, then they'll start to really sprout. For now, you just need to get this groundwork laid and figure out how to work with each other so that they can have these big matches and be put in some big spots. So that means you need a lot more young talent, and honestly, you can just kind of see what sticks, and cycle guys out while you still have guys like Naito who can turn it on, and Tanahashi who proved he can still turn it on, and Okada's still at the top. Like, you still have these major drawing cards, but they're obviously building the next generation of major drawing cards. So, which means you got to try some stuff and see what lands.
Doing a pretty good job of it, if you ask me.
It's very interesting from a fan's perspective, because you get to see the entirety of these guys' development. And everyone wants the rocket strap, right? Everyone wanted Tsuji to win the match at Dominion. Everyone wants Uemura to come back and replicate the Rainmaker shock. I don't know how much of any of that's necessary, but I think the pace that these guys are at, save for maybe Narita, but then you saw Narita in the opener of the G1 final, or not the opener, the undercard of the G1 final, like going nuts with Umino. I think Narita, to me now, is a guy who needs a big, boisterous crowd, because as soon as he was in that element, he's a whole different wrestler.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to be a part of that and see that a little bit more. And even Shota, he got to go and do that a little bit in the U.S. He got to be on some big AEW shows, and some big New Japan shows too, like the Chicago spot with Jay White and things like that. And then Tsuji had some pretty big spots on, say, like Royal Quest. and some of the bigger Rev Pro shows. So and Narita's whole excursion was basically COVID in the LA dojo, without any real big spots. So I think we're gonna see it come together at different times for these guys, and then I think it's up to the booking to strike while some of the irons are hot once that starts to happen.
So you've just mentioned a couple of these guys, but here's match number 2 for this night, which was Shota Umino, Master Wato, Yuji Nagata, and Tomoaki Hama beating Strong Style, Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, Red Narita, and their partner Yuto Nakashima. Umino pinned Yuto in 8:41 with the Death Rider. So the big thing here for the next tour was Umino and Narita, who are just like really going at each other in this match, and really like, the crowd seemed really into this rivalry. They have the draw obviously in the G1, so it seems like we're going to get a singles rematch probably on the Destruction Tour, and then one of the unit matchups seems like it's going to be New Japan for kind of Hantai versus Strong Style, which is interesting considering Strong Style is kind of part of Hantai. But here we're going to have they seem to set up Wato and Desperado as a pairing. They definitely had Nagata and Suzuki going at it. I mean, these two I love the dichotomy of like Nagata and Suzuki, these two old men who have had so many wars in New Japan dating back like 20 fucking years, just beating the shit out of each other, and then Umino and Narita, just, these two young guys just beating the shit out of each other. I mean, that was just like one of those, how can you not love this promotion kind of moments for me. And I thought the English commentary, again, I thought did a great job putting that over and these two like generational rivalries. But yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll talk about when we get to going through each guy. But for me, like, it'll be interesting to see Umino and Narita, face off again, because to me, like, the gap between the two of them felt really large during this G1, where, I like Red Narita. I think he had some really good matches in this G1. He performed really well in ring, but like, whether it's because of the fact that he's, got a blander gimmick, and I also, which is part of it, I mean, he just kind of like this Shibata Jr. with the black tights, obviously, but also I just don't think he has the same kind of star presence that Shota Umino has, and I think Umino really made a big step forward in this G1 for me, where he went from a guy that I like, that I hope makes it, to a guy that I like that I know is going to make it. I mean, he just came across like a fucking star in this tournament. The crowd was like, the difference in their entrance pop entering for this match was so huge. I mean, Umino was like, the crowd was going nuts for him here. And, they gave Narita a polite reaction, but like Umino, the crowd was super behind him. And, he's also kind of like, instead of trying to be something he's not, he's really leaned into what a dork he is on Twitter, especially, which I really like. And I feel like when you look on, when you look on Twitter, like, you see the same type of Western fans that really like Hiromu, really seem to like Umino for similar reasons, and Japanese fans I've seen really seem to like, the dorkiness. So like, he's kind of leaning into that kind of like, I'm a Nepo baby. I've never really had a hard day in my life. I just, like to be happy and eat ice cream and, he's like a little soft boy, and it just kind of works for him. So like, it works a lot better for him than trying to be a tough guy, which is not, he's never going to be a tough guy, I don't think. So, that's kind of my read on Umino. I think it's working, and I think he's definitely getting over as a babyface. So I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, he came back and didn't exactly light the world on fire, but I think throughout this G1, he grew and grew and grew, and he found his way into the gimmick, and I think he's got a lot of potential, and I think he's gonna be a guy, and I think he's gonna be a deserving guy too, and not just not just a forced guy. Yeah.
When I said Nepo baby, I didn't mean so much in like, oh well, he doesn't deserve the spot. I just mean like, he had an easier path. So did David Finlay. Obviously.
Yeah, they certainly had an in.
Yeah.
They had a guy.
Yeah.
Who could make some phone calls. So yeah. But I mean, I think at this point, he's earning it, and I think it's cool to see, like, right in front of your face. And if you're the type of person that first impression and you dig your heels in, then I kind of feel bad for you, because then no pro wrestler ever gets better, and everything's always, it used to be better. And
there are a lot of those people.
Yeah, that's not great. You should just pay attention, keep watching, see what happens, and be willing to change your mind, even if you don't ever change your mind. Like, just be willing to change your mind.
The third match was really the only match where I feel like nothing here set anything up, but it was Tanahashi, Ishii, Eddie Kingston, and Yo beating Togi Makabe, Hiroshi Tenzan, Satoshi Kojima, and Tiger Mask. Yo pinning Tiger Mask in 9:37. Not really anything. Is there anything notable here? I don't think there was, because Eddie's got a few, but he came out and attacked Sonari later.
Yeah, that was it was a later thing. Yeah, no, nothing. This was one of the few matches on this final that didn't have anything major going forward.
The only one, I think. I mean, unless you want to count the opener, but even that had Oiwa.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Oiwa thing, and that was an extension of what had already been happening. But
match 4, we had TMDK, Zack, Mikey, Haste, and Fujita beating Goto, Yoshihashi, Taguchi, and Bolton Oleg. Haste pinning Goto in 10:05. So that will obviously set up a Haste and Nichols shot at the IWGP tag titles, which is fine by me, because they had a pretty awesome match in New Beginning back in February. So I'm cool running that back.
Oh yeah.
And you'll basically have here TMDK versus Chaos / Hontai, with Bolton being matched up with Zack for the TV title. So that will be a unit matchup for the Destruction Tour.
Yeah, and I have a feeling they'll do that match on probably one of the smaller shows.
Yeah.
We'll know that pretty soon.
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah, I think the Destruction Tour cards are probably coming out. I think the Vegas card is already out.
Oh, really?
I think.
I gotta look that up now. Let's see what's on the Vegas card. Because I was kind of thinking about going to that and using my points and stuff that I have built up, but I don't know if I want to, because it's like, oh no, I don't see a card, just see tickets.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know anything about? Do you
misinformed? No.
Okay.
No, nothing worth noting. Just talent announcements. So then that's not anything special.
Yeah, it looked like Naito was going to be on there, which is kind of why I considered going, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Match 5, we had the first official match for El Phantasmo as a member of GOD. He came out to the GOD theme here, which he didn't the night before, which Phantasmo kind of boogieing the GOD theme was just as funny as I hoped it would be. But I like him in the group. I mean, I like this, like, they're like the good version of Bullet Club now, basically, like all former Bullet Club guys, and so I don't know, I just kind of like that dynamic. It's like, oh, we're formed Bullet Club, basically.
Yeah,
we're affiliated with Hontai. So it's kind of cool.
They need a little bit more in the group, because right now it's just the Tongans and ELP, and Jado. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping they do some recruitment.
But this match here, it was Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Hikuleo, ELP, and Jado beating the Bullet Club team of Finley, Kenta, Chase, Coughlin, and Kid. Tongaloa got the pin on Chase in 11:03. So the two matches here, obviously they're going to continue GOD versus Bullet Club for the Destruction Tour. We have the Never Openweight title. We're going to get another Tama Finley match for that belt, since Tama beat Finley in the G1 and they're 1-1. That's like the only program they set up on this show that I'm not that into. Didn't really feel either guy in the G1, and don't need a third match between the two of them, so not into that. I don't know how you feel about that one.
I mean, it's fine. I think the Never title's kind of floundering right now, because it's out of the, like, I just want to fight guys. It's like involved in story, and I think anytime the Never title gets too bogged down with just storyline, it's kind of a detractor of the title as a whole.
Yeah.
So, with that said, obviously they're running this whole feud through the Never title. And this will be the rubber match, and this will probably be the end of it, and then we'll see where that goes from there. But I guess yeah, I would think, but just to keep him strong. And Tama, I think he's gonna be booked where he's booked. He's booked, as a just on the cusp of getting past this Never space, but I don't know if it's ever actually gonna happen. but he's a solid guy. He was booked strong through the G1, so it is what it is. It's fine. I like the pairing of El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. I worry a little bit that it puts a ceiling on El Phantasmo, and I thought he really had some momentum coming out of the back half of his G1. So, but hopefully it's just kind of something to do for a little bit while he, something clears up for him to jump into some sort of singles action.
Yeah, so that was the other match I was going to mention. So El Phantasmo and Hikuleo will apparently be challenging Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin for these strong tag titles. So they've teamed up together apparently in Britain and Rev Pro. ELP and Hikuleo, so that'll be interesting to see them back as a team against Kidd and Coughlin, and I'm into that one. That's at least a very new match.
Yeah. I would imagine that the strong titles land on this Vegas show.
Yeah, you would think.
That would be my bet.
But they'll still be paired up probably on the whole Destruction tour. So
if they're on the tour, I would imagine. But I feel like as they're establishing these characters, they're going to put them on the tour.
Yeah. So that's it. The GOD versus Bullet Club is the big feud for Destruction. Then we have the next match. This match, I will say this. It almost spoiled the main event to me. Like, it made the main event, the result here made the main event go from, I was like 90% sure Naito was winning to like about 100. So the main event here was LIJ, or not the main event. The match here was LIJ, Shingo, Yota Tsuji, Hiromu, and Bushi, beating the United Empire, Will Ospreay, Jeff Cobb, Okan, and Hanare. Tsuji pinned Ospreay in 10:50 with the Gene Blaster. His basically hit him with 2 straight spears. It was awesome finish. But so there's really no reason to set up Ospreay versus Tsuji for the UK title unless these 2 units are going to be paired up. And the other match the other major match that's going to pair up the 2 units is Jeff Cobb challenging Tetsuya Naito for the Tokyo Dome main event spot, since Cobb beat Naito in the G1. So, I obviously it didn't give. I'm not criticizing New Japan. It didn't give it away unless you were really paying attention. But this was the match. Once Tsuji pinned Ospreay, and it was clear they're doing that UK title match, I'm like, okay, well, this made it really clear to me that Naito was probably winning that main event. So, yeah, that's gonna be another big feud for the Destruction Tour is LIJ and United Empire, which the 2 most popular units in New Japan. If people, I feel like it's one of those things that's easy to miss because it happened mostly over the course of the pandemic, but the United Empire is really, really popular in Japan. They're the only other unit that I would put up there with LIJ as for overall popularity. And, you can kind of see it in the crowds too when they just scan the crowds. And a lot of people like both of them, honestly. What is a thing I've come across on Japanese Twitter a lot, where people will be LIJ and United Empire fans. So they just, for whatever reason, there's a lot of crossover there. So it should be a hot feud between the 2 units, and they've kind of. I'm trying to think. When's the last time they've even feuded? I guess last year for Power Struggle, right?
Sort of, because of Ospreay and Naito.
But it feels like we have more feuds here this time. So
they're all kind of separate, but with their own intention.
Yeah. So you have Tsuji Cobb Tsuji Ospreay for the new UK title, which Ospreay rechristened the night before. I forgot to mention that, but he changed the US title to the UK title. So Tsuji Ospreay for the UK title. Shingo and Great Okan. Great Okan attacked Shingo backstage apparently to set that one up, and obviously Cobb and Naito for the for the G1 Climax winner spot. They don't have a briefcase anymore, I don't think. So I think it's just going to be.
We'll probably find out at the press conference if that's what they're going to end up doing.
Yeah,
maybe not. Who knows?
And then
maybe it'll be an old belt.
Yeah, maybe. And then Hiromu is the junior champion, and United Empire has 2 juniors they could match him up with. I mean, they could do Hiromu TJP, or they could do Hiromu Akira.
Yeah, I sort of assumed if Hiromu was going to come out as All-Star Junior Fest with some sort of direction, because there's really no direction for either of the junior titles right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you would think. I mean, they've got enough juniors in United Empire that you would think that they'd be able to put them, match someone up with him. But maybe Hiromu's got a lot of other things set up potentially. But it's a bunch of people that don't work in the New Japan.
Yeah, but the TJP or Akira makes sense just because they're probably going to be facing each other on the entire tour in tags anyway. So, and they're going to do. I'll pretty much guarantee you, there's going to be a super hot LIJ versus United Empire elimination match at one of the Corrigans. I think for the next few we're going to talk about, there probably will be too. So those should both be fun if they do them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so LIJ and United Empire, we set up Ospreay and Tsuji here. And the other thing that was kind of obvious for Naito winning the main event is Okada did not have a natural opponent at all. Because once Ospreay gets pinned here, that would have been Okada's challenger. Because that was the only person to beat Okada in the G1, was Will Ospreay. So, there's no other opponent for him. Right? Because he didn't lose to anybody else, I don't think, in the G1.
Yeah, he was
6-1. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So his only challenger was Ospreay if he was going to win the G1, and Ospreay just got pinned here by Tsuji to set up Tsuji and Ospreay for the UK title. So, yeah, this result on both levels just made it very obvious that, to me at least, that Naito was going to beat Okada in the main event. But
yeah, in retrospect, you're right. I don't think I had caught it at the time. But
I really did catch it, which I was like, because I was just kind of like. It was like an exhale moment for like okay. I don't have to really
this
worry.
is the only thing that makes any sense.
Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense now if Okada wins. So I'm like, okay. So, in a way that almost hurt. Well, we'll get to that in a second. The semi-main event was the team of the Bullet Club, House of Torture, Evil, Yujiro, Sho, and Dick Togo, defeating just 5 guys: Sonata, Taichi, Kanemaru, and Doki. Sho got the pin on Taichi in 10:24. With the shock arrow right after he hit him with the wrench. I love Sho. I love like that maniacal look he gets when no one has ever been happier to do anything than he is to hit someone with that fucking wrench. He gets so like, I don't know, like cackling to himself behind, because it was a great camera shot too, where Taichi, he had just like cleaned house on the rest of House of Torture using these weapons they brought in the ring. I believe Doki's iron pipe and I don't even know what the fuck the other weapon was. But both weapons, he was like cleaning house on them with them and like threw the weapons down. But you could see Sho all the way in the opposite corner with his wrench. And he is like, I'm going to hit this motherfucker. Like, he's so excited. And then Taichi turns around and he nails him in the face with his wrench. And then Sho picks him up and gives him the shock arrow and gets the pin. So they remembered the KOPW's open weight, and Sho is going to be the next challenger. And in fact, he stole the belt. Evil then handcuffs Sonata to the ropes. This was awesome. He handcuffs Sonata to the ropes. He sends Dick Togo to go fucking harass poor Abe, the ring announcer. And Abe at first, they give him this note that they want him to read. And Abe at first is like, I'm not reading that. Like, he just flat out, you can see him shaking. He's like, I'm not doing it. He's like, he's pointing, he's not doing it. And then Dick Togo starts threatening him. And Kevin Kelly is like, all right, just read it, buddy. We all know it doesn't mean anything, which I thought was really funny. He was just like, yeah, just get it over with and just read it. We know it's not official. And he reads this note that's basically like, well, Sonata, because he's such a disappointment as champion or whatever, is vacating the title, and since Evil's the last one who beat him, Evil's the new champion. And that was basically the gist of the note. And it's like, and then Evil just like, Evil, it was like addressed to, because I love how Evil calls himself this. He calls himself Seigi, like Justice of the Ring. And he's like addressed by the Justice of the Ring. And then like, I don't know. It's just really great stuff here. And Evil walks off with the forfeited IWGP World Title, that definitely official forfeiture of the World Title, and Sho also steals the KOPW. So yeah, this was fun, and it was a very hot angle, I thought, to set up the Just 5 Guys versus House of Torture feud that will be on the next Destruction Tour. These 2 title matches. So
I don't love the stealing the belt thing. It's just it's kind of a trope that
I like it when they
me.
do. I like that they do it specifically because they just do it all the time now. Because remember they stole the tag titles too.
That's true. Yeah. It is kind of their bit. So at least there's that. I do wonder if the handcuffs on Sonata are actually a indicator of where the Taichi Sho match is going to end up going. I don't, usually they just like start to pepper that type of stuff in somehow, some way before they set the steps. So I wonder if the handcuffs come into play here. Which would be weird because they already sort of did the handcuff thing for KOPW.
Oh, yeah.
But, and some people might be into that, and I'm not here to judge.
The main event was, of course, Tetsuya Naito defeating Kazuchika Okada in 34-18 with the Destino to win his third G1. He also won it in 2013 and 2017. So yeah, this was another incredible match. I honestly feel like I shortchanged it when I watched it live. It was 6 a.m. I stayed up to watch it live, which I did not do at Naito Ospreay. I just watched that one earlier in the day on Saturday. And I was just very, very tired. And I still thought it was incredible. But I also did not have the same stress or the same, for all the reasons I talked about earlier, I did not have the same, nervousness at all. I just was very serene about it. I was like, yeah, Naito's winning. I just was very convinced in my head that Naito was winning. And, he obviously did end up winning the match. When I rewatched it pretty much right before I was coming on to record with you, I bumped it up even more. It was a match that I was probably thinking 4 3/4 or maybe even 4.5 when I watched it live, but I went the full 5 after I watched it the second time because, just all the stuff I missed when I was half asleep. First of all, Tetsuya Naito was okay, everybody thinks I'm apparently concussed from the night before. What am I going to do, of course? Sell a concussion the entire match. Which I was this guy is kind of a fucking genius when he comes to that kind of shit. Because he comes down to the ring. He starts doing it immediately. He starts looking like this 1,000-yard stare and takes even longer to get in the ring than he usually does. And he was selling that he was fucking concussed throughout the entire match. And yes, I do think it was selling. I don't think he actually was wrestling here with a fucking concussion because... everything he did. I mean, they didn't mess anything up, and everything he's messed more moves up. In recent years, without a concussion. So the fact that they hit everything perfectly to me would imply that he was fine and did not have a concussion. But yeah, they hit everything perfect. But Naito did a great job just selling that he was fucking out of it, and just constantly giving that 1,000-eye stare, and just selling that he was completely out of it. They did so many amazing callbacks to their past matches in this match. I mean, there's very obvious ones and very not obvious ones, but the obvious ones, Naito doing that cradle he came up with last year where he beat Okada with in 5 or 6 minutes or something in the New Japan Cup. That was awesome. And I bought that as I was jumping up he was going to get the pin with that. That was just such a great little callback. And obviously the Stardust Press callback was amazing. Where 2018 at the Dome, he goes for it, he misses it, and that's the start of his downfall. And obviously starts him losing the match. 2020, he goes for it, he hits it, but doesn't get the pin. This time, he goes for it again, he fucking misses it again, eats shit on it, and it just, when he misses this fucking thing, he just crashes and burns. And it feels like the start of his downfall again. And, not, I feel like I'm almost putting the English announcers over too much, but they did a great job, selling that this is it and he's, really in trouble now. And then he manages to turn the tide and come back and win anyway. Just, that callback and that whole drama at the end was just amazing. And he they just did some amazing counters, Okada countering the Destino right into the, what's it called? The
Cobra Flosion?
I don't think it was the Cobra Flosion. I think it was the landslide. The landslide Cobra.
Right. He's got it. So I think I was talking about this in the Voices of Wrestling Slack. He's got a lot of shoulder moves now.
Yeah.
And he used them all at some point throughout this whole thing. He did a bunch of different counters. So. Yeah,
but the Destino counter right into the landslide tombstone looked amazing, and then Naito fucking comes up with this Rainmaker Destino, where he does the Rainmaker spin right into the Destino, which looked amazing and was such an amazing way to beat Okada, and then hits one more Destino with the full wind-up right after that instead of going for the pin, and that's the finish. I mean, just an all-time great finish to finish an all-time great G1 final that I went 5 stars on here. Just an amazing fucking match, and the atmosphere of Ryogoku just, like we talked about earlier, the Ospreay one was a split crowd. This crowd I don't know what they would have done if Naito didn't win this match. I mean, they were like so behind Naito here. They were so into seeing him win this tournament, and obviously he did. They gave him the finish they wanted. So that only elevated things here, and this was just an amazing match to cap off what ended up being, despite all the bitching from some people, a very good tournament.
A very good tournament, and it is it's 10 a.m. in Tokyo right now, and I think they're still chanting Naito's name near Ryogoku. Like, they were 100% all over that. So yeah, I mean, there's not much more to be said, but except that I agree, and that this was, I mean, I'm so glad that we finally got a G1 final that can live in that same space with some other G1 finals. Like, obviously Ospreay and Okada was incredible last year too. And don't get me wrong, like that was a great match, but the atmosphere of a G1 final in Ryogoku, it cannot be beat. It is so big and it feels so huge, and this tradition that they've built. And I know they moved the G1 final out of Ryogoku a couple times. I think there's been 6 or 7 that are not in Ryogoku, but as I'm on G1 final day, I've got this playlist that I'll just pop on. It's literally all the G1 Climax finals, and it's really kind of a fun way to just go about my day. It's just playing on the TV while I'm either compiling stats or living the rest of my life. But I did that yesterday, and like as soon as we got to the ones outside of Ryogoku, like even though there's still some hot crowds in Budokan and whatever the dome was that did Okada and Nakamura, which was a weird day too, but just the atmosphere is just different. It's just not quite the same. It doesn't feel so contained, like the roof is going to blow off this place. And to get that back and to see it in Ryogoku again, it really gave me this feeling, right? That everything's back and everything's going to be great. And like, it kind of sucks that we're in a position that we have to kind of go with Okada and Naito again. But I think this whole tournament was about building up for the future, and then at the tail end of the tournament, you had to pivot back to the present, and they pivoted back to the present, and Naito gets his big win, and it's almost like a hat tip. And maybe this never would have happened if it weren't for the pandemic cutting Naito's big title run short. But I'm kind of glad that it's the direction that we're headed in. I'm kind of glad that they're sticking with Sonata, because I actually do think that'll be a big dome main event if that's what it ends up being. There's always the chance that things change a little bit. But the Naito win, this match was about as perfect as it gets. If Will Ospreay versus Naito is your one, of the tournament, then this has to be your 1A, because it shared some major similarities, but the wrestlers are so different. But it's nice to see someone other than Will Ospreay be the kind of common thread here. So the common thread here is Tetsuya Naito. And like that's so promising for the remainder of the year, because obviously he's going to be put into some bigger spots, and I think he rested up and hopefully he got himself a little bit more healthy, and now we're going to see what this run's going to look like from him. And I think it's kind of a neat place to be, and it's a neat place to pick things up if you kind of stepped away for a little bit, because you're going to see some familiar characters who've maybe evolved a little bit, but I think you'll be able to catch up pretty quick. So if you're kind of a lapsed New Japan fan, catching up because you got some buzz around the G1, I think you can just dive right in and you'll catch up pretty quick, and the young guys are going to tell you who they are. So get back into it. It's a great time to dive back in and catch up as you go through kind of the paces as we run towards Wrestle Kingdom now.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, the New Japan isn't that interesting post between the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom. And I get it to a degree, but the Destruction Tour will be fun. There's a lot of really fun stuff set up here that we talked about, pretty much all of it. And then I honestly, the World Tag League I feel like has been better, especially pairing it up with Super Junior Tag League has really worked for me. So that tour is not nearly as boring as it used to be. And there's also like going to be new interesting teams in there and stuff. Like, they set up that Lance Archer and Alex Zane team, like,
oh yeah,
way far in advance for that, which I'm sure they're going to be in it. But yeah, I mean, there's there'll be interesting stuff, and then obviously you'll get those Road to the Tokyo Dome Korakuens that'll be great, and then we'll see how the Wrestle Kingdom card looks. So I'm very excited about New Japan's rest of the year. It's not going to be like this, again, the G1 main event, but I'm sure there'll be some really good, cool stuff probably. And like I said before, like probably two really cool, I would expect at least two really cool elimination matches at Korakuen with LIJ against United Empire and just 5 guys against the House of Darkness. So, or House of Torture.
Darkness Torture.
House of Torture. House of Darkness Torture. I almost just tripped over my words there. But House of Torture, led by the King of Darkness, of course. Anyway, so that's the 2 final nights. We talked a long time about them. So let's quickly go through the individual performances here in the G1 and our top 10. But I don't regret talking for a long time about those 2 shows because they're
great.
2 fucking great shows. So, especially the final night. Don't really mind doing that at all. Okay, so for each block, I'm just going to go basically in reverse order here for my average star rating here from worst to best, basically. And then we can also talk about just their G1 performance in general. And I'll try to give my lowest rated and highest rated match for people who are looking for stuff to go back and watch and or stuff to avoid, in my opinion. So A block, last place here, the crafty veteran, Chase Owens. I have him in a 2.82 average star rating for the A block. His best match for me was against Gabe Kidd, which I went 3.5 stars on. So that match would have taken place all the way back on the first night, actually, July 15th at the Hokkaido Prefectural Sports Center. My worst match was a tie with the Narita match and the Hikuleo match. I went 2 stars on both of those. Not much to say about Chase's G1. He had some matches I thought were fine. He had some matches I thought were pretty bad. He was just kind of there.
Not much to say. He held down his end of the bargain.
Should I mention how he finished too? So I don't know if you have that in front of you, but the standings.
I can. 2-5.
2-5. There you go.
On a four match losing streak to end the tournament.
So you finished with 4 points, so you end up in last place.
Yes.
The next lowest guy on my list was Hikuleo with a 3.36 average star rating. So, he had, I would say he had a good tournament. The worst match for me was the one with Chase Owens again, which was, again, I went 2 stars on that one. His best match, I went 4.25 on, which was the match he had with Shota Umino right at the end of the tournament to decide the block. That would have been on night 13 on August 5th in the Iriyo Arena, Osaka. I thought that was not just a coming out match for Umino, where he, the entire G1 was a coming out for Umino, but I thought that was Hikuleo, he found his footing as the tournament went on for me. He went from a guy, who's kind of just a big guy, to a guy who was working more to his size and really working like a giant by the end of the tournament. And this was a great example where I don't know if it was added confidence knowing he was winning, but I thought he worked really great here as the big dude, and who just Umino couldn't quite find a way to get past, and he really got that choke slam over, as a finish. So, even though I have him as second worst here in the block, I thought he had a good tournament by the end of it, especially, and definitely finished strong with that match with Umino.
Yeah. I think he's one of the guys that showed a lot of growth throughout the tournament, but I can see how he landed kind of where he did, but I'm hopeful that he found his way. I think some of these guys just needed to have some legitimate singles matches to grow into their kind of singles persona, and Hikuleo is definitely one of those.
So there you go. And I mean, just obviously he ended up finishing second.
Finished 4-3. Yeah.
Yeah. Second.
So yeah, not a close second. Pretty far away. Pretty far away from Sanada.
Sanada finished with 7-0. So, the next guy up, third lowest average star over the block, for me was Sonata, who I'm sorry, actually, no, it wasn't. It was Red Narita, we just mentioned, who is a 3.61 average star rating for me. So pretty big jump from Hikuleo, even though he finished third last. His worst match, again, was Chase Owens, that I went 2 stars on. His best match for me, though, was against Kaito Kiyomiya, again, right at the end of the tournament on that last A-Block night. I went 4.5 stars on that match. I had 2 other matches at 4 stars for him, too. The Gabe Kidd match and the Umino match. Kidd at 4 flat and Umino at 4.25. Plus a 3 3/4 match with Tsuji. So he had some very strong performances here. Dragged down a little bit by that Chase match. And his Sonata match I wasn't that into, so that dragged him a little bit down too. But still, a strong in-ring tournament for Narita. Finished with a really awesome match with Kaito Kiyomiya, where he spoiled Kiyomiya and eliminated him. And, just a very strong performance for Narita and in-ring, even if I still think he has a ways to go from an in-ring star perspective. And he finished with 6 points, and I'm sure you have the exact record.
Yeah, 2-3-2, but at the top of the 2-3-2s. So he was actually technically booked stronger than Umino.
Yeah, he went to the draw with Umino and Tsuji. He beat Chase Owens, Kiyomiya.
The Kiyomiya win kind of put him over the edge with the guys that tied at 6. And that match was incredible.
Lost to Gabe Kidd, Hikuleo, and Sonata. But yeah, that match was amazing. Yeah. The next guy on my list here at a 3.71 average star rating was Sonata. He had a good tournament. I liked a lot of his matches. I had 2 matches at 4.25 for him, which were his match with Kaito and his match with Shota Umino. So both of those matches I was pretty high on. I would say the Kaito one was better. That was my highest rated 4.25 star match of the entire tournament when I did my ranking. So that was from night 7 at Korakuen Hall. His weakest match for me would have been I guess I'm going to say his name again, Chase Owens, which I went 3 stars on. So, that match was fine, and that was his weakest. So not anything like, that was horrible or anything, but just kind of a match on that last A-Block night. But, I thought Sonata had a strong tournament, and maybe was overshadowed a little bit by some of the other people in his block, but still had a very strong tournament, I thought, from an in-ring perspective.
Yeah, and whipped off seven wins in a row and continued kind of that path as the champion in the block with the guys that can only aspire to get that high. So I think that was good booking. I kind of thought someone might get a big win over him, but they waited on it, and that's okay. I think that with blocks of this size, you can see guys go undefeated, and it's not totally outrageous. So exactly. I thought it was good, and yeah, I think you had a good tournament. I think if you're not in on Sonata now, you're not gonna be, and that's okay. Sometimes the main champion of your promotion isn't what makes you tick. So, but yeah, if you're not into just 5 guys Sonata, I don't know what to tell you. You're probably gonna have to ride it out and hope that Naito wins at the Dome.
After that, I have Gabe Kidd at a 3.79 average star rating. His best match for me, which was the only match I went 4.25 on. And I should mention, too, for the guys who advanced, I'm only talking about block matches for their best and worst matches. Gabe Kidd, I had him at 4.25 against Yota Tsuji. So that match was back on night 13, August 5th in Osaka. That was, of course, the last A-Block night again, and that was, of course, the infamous body double match with the Yota Tsuji twin that nobody knew existed, which certainly was memorable. But yeah, I a couple other 4-star matches for Kidd. I went 4 stars on his match with Kaito, that insane brawl that ended up in the double countout, and 4 stars on his match with Narita as well. His lowest rated match for me was again with Chase Owens, but only 3.5 stars, so not that bad or anything. Oh, actually, no, sorry. His lowest rated match for me was 3.25. For once, it wasn't Chase. It was his match with Hikuleo. I went 3.25 on that one. But yeah, Gabe Kidd, I can see why some people did not like his brawling antics, but it didn't bother. The brawling didn't bother me at all. It also, I thought, got a little lesser as the tournament went on. But I really enjoyed his whole loose cannon deal. Like, you're just completely out of his mind. Throwing chairs and acting like a crazy person. I enjoyed all that, and I thought he just brought a lot of fire to the role. Had some, once he got in the ring, I just thought he had some really awesome matches, and he looked like just like we said with Shota earlier, and obviously I think everybody thinks with Yota Tsuji, Gabe Kidd looked like a guy. I mean, he looked like a guy
Totally.
who is gonna be there and is gonna be a strong rival for the young generation as this out of control gaijin. So I really liked him in this tournament. I thought he had a great tournament.
Yeah, and I think they did a great job establishing what Gabe Kidd is, and I think Gabe Kidd did a nice job finding what Gabe Kidd is now. So, 2-4-1, so not great on the results side, but great on the character development side. Like we absolutely know who Gabe Kidd is now, and honestly, you're right. Like, he's always been a really good wrestler. He was great in the when they did the kind of C Block series. What year was that? 2021.
Yeah.
Where the Young Lions were the openers on all the cards. Like, he looked awesome then, and he's looked awesome since, when he's been making appearances and having great stuff for a young guy, or for a guy young in his career at least. And then this is his launch pad. I think he's gonna take it and run with it. So and I just think it's kind of the perfect gimmick for him. It's gonna be a really good time, and I do hope he elevates. And I know he'll do the tag team stuff, but I do hope that eventually that splits out and he finds his way into single stuff.
Tied for second, I have two guys tied for my second highest rated average rating in the block. First, Yota Tsuji at a 3.89 average rating. So I had two different matches of his at 4.25. The one with Gabe Kidd I just mentioned before. Let me see which one I had. That's the one I had higher. So my favorite match for him was, again, Tsuji versus Gabe Kidd from the last A Block night on August 5th. And then the other 4.25 match I had for Tsuji was his match with Shota Umino on night 11 in Takamatsu on August 1st. Besides that, I also had a couple 4-star flat matches for him against Sanada and against Kaito. His lowest match was Chase Owens at 3.25, but just Yota Tsuji, I think everybody was kind of on the train already even before the G1 started, and he gave no reason for anyone to get off the train. I mean, he looked like a star. He had great matches. I mean, I don't know what else you could want with this guy.
He's a vibes guy, and he's got it. He's got that aura. So, and he got one extra win over the kind of group that was kind of bundled up here in the middle. So he went 3-3-1.
He beat Narita. He was like the first one of the three.
Yes, he got the win over the Roiwa.
He beat Umino. So he beat Umino. So he went because they all went to draws with each other except Tsuji beat Umino. So basically, they all got a treat. The three of them, basically, were like,
they all got a thing.
Yeah, Umino.
But that's
kind of
just G1s in general.
Yeah, Umino got to be the guy alive in the A Block main event and with the chance to move on. Tsuji got to be the guy who got a win in the Three Musketeers, and Narita got to be the guy who beat Kaito of the three. So,
and Kiyomiya got to play.
Kiyomiya got to be there. He was happy to be there. He got Ryohei Oiwa, so
he got a young lion.
But yeah, Kaito is the next guy I'm going to mention because he's the other guy tied for second in average star rating with a 3.89. I had two matches at 4.25 for him, the Umino match and the Sonata match. So let me see which one I had ranked higher. It was the Sonata match, which I think I mentioned was my favorite of the 4.25 of the matches I rated 4.25 in the tournament. So that was from night 7 at Korakuen Hall. And then, I had I'm sorry. My favorite Kaito match was his match with Narita, which was 4.5 on the last A Block night. So that was my favorite Kaito match from Osaka on night 13. But yeah, so two matches of 4.25 with Kaito and Umino and Kaito and Sonata. Two more matches of 4 stars flat with Tsuji and with Gabe Kidd. And then his worst match, unfortunately, was the one with Chase Owens again. 3 stars. Poor Chase is getting buried in this A Block discussion. But yeah, we kind of talked a lot about Kaito already, but like obviously besides the fact that his promotion doesn't know how to book him, he had a great in-ring tournament. I mean, tied for second here, average star rating. Just he pulled out all the stops and had a ton of awesome matches. And it's a shame he can't stand up for himself apparently and get booked a little better. But
yeah, I don't have much more to say about Kaito except in ring he had a really good tournament.
Yep.
Yeah.
My number one guy for the tournament for the A block in average star rating was Shota Umino with an average rating of exactly 4 stars. And he just did it on consistency for me because I had an amazing 5 different matches of his 7 were exactly 4.25 for me. His match with Narita, Hikuleo, Tsuji, Sonata, and Kaito, all 4.25. So he just was the king of 4.25 for me in this tournament. Just had so many awesome matches. The Red Narita match was my favorite of all of his 4.25 star matches. That was from the very start of the tournament, night 1, the 20-minute draw. So that was just such an awesome match, and just was a match where you felt like, okay, they have something here. Like, this is gonna be a generational rivalry. Like, these are 2 guys who just work so well together that you want to see this. So once again, Chase Owens with the lowest rated match for a guy this time, 3 stars for that one. And just went 3 3/4 on this match with Gabe Kidd. But yeah, just an amazing tournament here for Shota, and a tournament where he really got to look like, really broke out and looked like a future star here, or a star right now, honestly.
Cool thing about Shota, so he actually of the block matches, he had the longest total match length.
Well,
so
2 20-minute draws, so
right. So that helps, but some of these other guys did too. 1 hour 58 minutes and 7 seconds. So for an average match length of 16:52, highest in the whole tournament, not just the A block. And his average losing match length also highest in the tournament because both of his losses went very long. So average losing match length of, all 3 of his losses went very long. Average losing match length of 18 minutes and 30 seconds. So anytime he was going to lose, they went long, and then he also had the draws. So, he was in there. I mean, you can see the cardio worked. So, kind of neat. He surpassed guys like Okada and Shingo and Naito that are typically the long match guys. So that probably says something, about kind of trust that the company has in him to go out there and have a compelling longer match. So I think that's a sign towards what's to come for Shota.
So there's your A block. Your B block here for lowest to highest in average rating. Kenta was my lowest with 3.11. The match that really helped Kenta a lot, the only match I went 4 stars on for him, was with El Phantasmo. Now, I believe that was the match where the official runtime was what, like a minute or something, right? Or was it less than a minute?
It was 19 seconds.
Okay. So I'm using the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart Survivor Series 97 rule, where if 2 guys have a really long brawl before their actual match, that's clearly just the 2 of them fighting, and then they get in the ring and the match starts, I just count the brawl as part of the match, I guess, is what I'm doing the rating.
Did you do that for Gabe Kidd too?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
So
great.
I just counted the whole brawl as the match. I just thought their brawl was awesome. And this was night 9, July 27th from Oda Ward Gym. And I really enjoyed that brawl. And obviously, then they get back in the ring and Phantasmo pins them immediately, which was just a really cool finish too.
I'll tell you, El Phantasmo was very disappointed that was not faster than Yano versus Goto from a couple of years ago, which was 18 seconds. So he was bummed.
But that was his highlight of the tournament for me. His low light was against the Great Okan, which I only went 2.5 stars on. But Kenta was here. He had the other match of his I really liked was against Ospreay, and then I have like 3 matches at 2 3/4 and 1 at 3 1/4. Just he was a guy. I mean, he did his like little plunder gimmicks. I know Joe Lanza on the flagship started calling him Plunder Yano, which I can't really disagree with. Except I found Yano more entertaining in this tournament, honestly. But
Yano kept it really quick.
Yeah.
Everything Yano did was quick, and Kenta had the lowest average match length in the B block, but it was still 10 minutes. So you still had a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I honestly don't have much. I didn't think about Kenta much during this tournament, if that makes any sense. Like, he was just a guy on the list for the B block.
Second to last in B for me for the average star rating was Tonga Loa at 3.21. I had 3 of his matches all 3.5, so I have to look at my rating and see, or my list here and see which one I actually had as the top one. For him I had, it's really far down there, whatever it is. I believe it's the ELP match from Night 7 again in Corkin Hall that I went 3.5 on. Do not remember that at all, honestly, but it is my highest rated Tonga Loa match, apparently, my highest ranked. He obviously was having some trouble with the knee. He had some matches that were not very good. Went 2 3/4 on the Okan match and the Kenta match, which I know a lot of people had the Kenta one a lot lower than I did. So he didn't like. I thought some people were a little over the top with how supposedly offensive he was. He just clearly wasn't. Like even 2 years ago, he had a better G1 than this. Where he was kind of a fun power fighter. Here, he just kind of looked like, he was struggling to move sometimes. But, he had some good matches. And, Ospreay got a good match out of him, too, at 3.5. Yoshihashi. The one on the final night. What'd you say?
I said that's a classic, Kenta and Yoshihashi.
No.
They just always have...
Sorry, it was Tonga.
Oh, Tonga. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not a classic. Sorry.
I was like, that's a classic. But yeah, a little disappointed by his effort, and really Okada's effort too, against Tonga Loa on the final night. But I guess Okada was like, look, I'm going to the final against Naito. I don't need to do anything on the final B block night against Tonga Loa. But yeah, 3.21.
He was already clinched then too.
He's already clinched. It's true. He did need to win to like clinch first.
For seeds. Yeah.
But he did, and he did win anyway. But yeah, 3.21, second to last year, Tonga Loa. Hopefully his knee gets better.
Similar to Kenta, I didn't. He was a guy on my little roster and rubric, and I did the stats for the shows, but nothing very interesting popped up.
Third to last for the B block. A big jump here from 3.21. I had Great Okan at exactly 3.5. His best match very easily was against Will Ospreay. I went 4 1/4 on that one. So
do you think he should have won that?
No, I'm fine with him losing. Especially, okay, if Ospreay is staying in New Japan, I'm fine with him losing that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think he is at this point, but I guess we'll see.
There's a lot of things that point that direction, but we do not have time to dig into that right now.
Yeah. So Ospreay, Great Okan, Night 7, Corkin Hall, 4 1/4 was my favorite Okan match. Least favorite was Okan against Kenta at 2.5. I wouldn't say I was like super disappointed by Okan's tournament. I mean, I liked his match with Okada as well. I liked his match with Taichi, the technical match they did in the last night. But like maybe I would have liked to see a little bit more than he showed here. Like just he's maybe running out of runway to become a guy, like a real guy. And maybe is more on the path to being just a guy. So it would have been nice to see him really take a step forward here, where I thought he had a nice little tournament, but did not like blow me away or anything.
Yeah, he actually had the third most total match length in the block behind Okada and Ospreay. So he had some time to develop some matches, but nothing really stood out. The Ospreay match was really good, and I like that it opened Corkin. It was something a little bit different. So. I'm still a Great Okan believer. I think at some point something's going to happen and he's going to be a really interesting character going forward. But I feel like he's got like a Taichi timeline where like it's just going to take forever and no one's going to believe in him by the time he finally kind of crosses that bridge. And I am a little fearful of that.
Next guy in average star rating is 3.68 for Yoshihashi. He just had a great tournament. I had 2 different matches for him at 4 1/4, the Taichi match and the Ospreay match. I went higher on the Taichi one, but they were like back-to-back in my ranking. So Taichi one was night 9 in Oda Ward Gym, and the Ospreay one was night 3 in Yamagata. So 4 1/4 on both of those. And then I went 4 stars on his match with Okada from, I believe that was that Corkin? I think it was Corkin.
That was Corkin, yeah.
Yeah. So... then some other good stuff. His weakest match was again with Kenta. which I went 2 3/4 on. But yeah, I mean, Yoshihashi, he's just become a very good wrestler. I mean, there's not much else to say about it. He just, his comebacks are great now. He just has great babyface fire, and he had a lot of great matches this tournament. So,
yeah, and he plays well in Korakuen. He's still got that crowd. So whenever I see a match like Okada and Yoshihashi in Korakuen, I always think maybe this is the one. And that's just going to be life following Yoshihashi. You're going to hope for that one because Okada's beat him like 13 times. And he did it again this G1, but one of these times it's going to happen. Maybe it won't, but I think if it happens, it'll be in Korakuen. So I always like to keep an eye out for what Yoshihashi's up to there.
Next on the average star rating, I have Taichi at 3.82. He had 2 of my favorite matches the entire tournament that I went 4.5 stars on, with Will Ospreay on night 1 and with Okada on night 5. The Ospreay one was, of course, in Hokkaido. The Okada one was in Nagaoka. I very slightly preferred the Ospreay one, but it was really close. So those 2 were just amazing matches. I mean, he always has amazing matches with Okada, and they have a long-running feud at this point. And Ospreay, they had an amazing match back in February at New Beginning that I went a little higher on, actually 4 3/4. So 2 really amazing matches there at Taichi and Ospreay. Also went 4 1/4 on Taichi's match with Yoshihashi. A couple other 3 3/4 with Okan and ELP, and then his lowest match was again Kenta, that really short match from Korakuen. I just gave 2 3/4. So a great tournament for Taichi here. Just some really standout stuff.
Yeah, the Ospreay match I will remember the Ospreay match for probably my whole life. It was so good. There's so much to love about that match.
2 guys here tied for second. First of all, Okada. I went 3.86 for Okada. By his standards, a little underwhelming. I mean, I went 4.5 on his match with Taichi, and then I had 4 different 4-star flat matches with ELP, Okan, Ospreay, and Yoshihashi. I think the Ospreay match being only 4 flat, really kind of is what hurts his average and hurts his the perception, because I think everybody was expecting a match of the year contender there, but Okada was the guy of this entire tournament. We haven't really talked about the 20-minute time limit and that change for this year. To me, most of the guys, it was either a positive or neutral. It let the young guys do those 20-minute draws, do the time limit draws without having to worry about going 30 every time. And, it got a lot of guys going faster, I think, than normal. Okada was the only guy to me where it was sort of a detriment, because he just really needs that extra time to warm up for his big matches. And just, the only guy that I thought got him going really early in his match was Taichi. And, of course, that was the match I went 4.5 stars on. That was Okada's best match of the tournament by far, or the best match of the blocks, I should say. So, because Taichi was able to get him going early and really get him into it with their strike exchanges and such, I thought that Okada really was able to perform in that one. The other ones, when he's going 4 flat, I mean, it's not like they're still great matches, but it just took him, takes him a longer time to really get going. Like, the 10-minute call would hit, and you'd be like, okay, buddy, the match is half over, basically, or more than half over, because he's already not going to 20 minutes. So, you got to get going here. So, it hurt him more than it hurt other people. And then, of course, you see him go out there in the final and have a 5-star match when he can do a 34-minute match again, like he did with Naito. So, he's just, Okada was a guy that was, going to be more harmed by this 20-minute time limit than almost anybody else in the field, or was more harmed than anybody else in the field. So
yeah, I mean, there's no way around that. And then you saw him kind of come out of his shell once he had no time limit. So he's still that guy. But yeah, I mean, I do hope that he still averaged 16 minutes a match. I mean, that's quite a lot, but he never hit his 20-minute pacing, I guess. So so be it. You live and learn.
He would go 20 to 25 in a lot of matches in past years, I feel like.
Right.
So
the really high end stuff would go 20-25.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always teasing a 30-minute draw or anything, but yeah, 20-25. The 20-minute call was when they would turn on the jets for whatever they had planned for the finish. So here, you kind of had to do that at 15. So
and he wasn't always great at that, honestly. So yeah.
No, yeah, and name me a great Okada match that's 15 minutes. I mean,
exactly.
There's a few.
The Jay White
but
one.
yeah, the Jay White one is the only one I can really think of immediately off the top of my head. So and the beatdown of Kiyomiya. That's a whole nother thing. But those are special types of matches too. Exactly. Like in a normal run, when you got to do 8 of these or 7, it's a little different. So I get it, but I love that he got a chance to turn it on at the end.
The other guy tied for second in average star rating for the block for me was El Phantasmo at 3.86. His match of the tournament, not really surprising at all, with Will Ospreay. 4.5 stars on that on night 14 in Osaka. So that was his best match. Had a couple other 4-star matches with Kenta and Okada. And then he just was very consistent. I had 2 out of 3 3/4 with Okan and Taichi, and then 2 at 3.5. Is where he bottomed out for me against Tangaloa and Yoshihashi. So, I didn't think he was having any kind of blow-away tournament, so I was a little surprised he ended up tied for second. I thought he was having a good tournament. But when you're, consistent and then you have a match of the level he had with Ospreay in the last night, he kind of snuck up and ended up finishing tied for second in my average star rating. So, that Ospreay match really put him over the top. So,
fair that Ospreay match would put him over the top because it was great.
And then first place, no surprise, Will Ospreay with a 4.11 average star rating. He had 2 matches that were under 4 stars for me in this tournament. 3.5 for Tangaloa and 3 3/4 for Kenta, which ended up being his second best match. And then a 4-star match with Okada that, the rare, very disappointing 4-star match. 4.25 with Yoshihashi, 4.25 with Great Okan, 4.5 with ELP, and then my personal favorite of his matches, 4.5 with Taichi. Back on night 1. So, there you go. C block, the lowest average rated guy for me was Mikey Nichols at 3.14. And I don't think Nichols had a bad tournament at all. I was
going to say, you still consider that overperforming, probably.
Yeah. I mean, he was dragged down by the worst match of the tournament for me. I really hated his match with Evil, which I went 1 3/4 on. But, he had a couple 4-star matches with Ishii and Shingo. Some 3 and 3.25 stuff. So, he had a perfectly fine tournament and some surprisingly high-end stuff. So
he earned his spot.
Problem.
No
problem
right.
at Mikey.
Showed up, did better than I thought he was going to, was kind of interesting. He bled a lot, so he's got that going for him. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people pointed to his inclusion as a way to speak about bloat or roster bloat in the G1, but he showed up in a way that he deserved to be there, and I think that's really neat to see.
Second to last, I had Evil at 3.29, again dragged down by that Mikey match, but his best match was against Shingo, which I know you really liked too. That one, I won 4 stars on that, and that was back on the last night for C block, back in Yokohama, so that was on night 15. And, just an awesome match there with all the, if you really hate, we kind of went over this already, but if you really hate all the running stuff, you probably didn't think I'm insane for saying 4 stars on this, but I thought it was a lot of fun, and we kind of went over it already. But if you want,
I just feel like it was the best, most ridiculous version of it, and if you take something that far, then I'm usually all right, fine, you're committed to it. This is not some bullshit. We're gonna way go into it, and I'm here for that. But he did win the block.
He did win the block, yeah.
Well,
second.
Second place, but tied for first, but tiebreakers, blah, blah, blah.
The Finley match I saw a lot of hate for. I didn't really hate it. I went 3 1/4. It was hurt by the fact that it was heel versus heel in front of a crowd that wasn't great to begin with. I think it was.
And people really wanted it to advance some sort of Bullet Club thing.
Yeah.
That's what I think what was missing there is that's what kind of set people into a frenzy, is that they wanted it to start splitting off House of Torture officially, or whatever's going to be, and it just didn't. There's
really I get where they're coming from, because it's we've been in this spot where House of Torture's in Bullet Club, but they never team with anyone else in Bullet Club, so it's why are they even in Bullet Club? I like that they did a shirt about it, basically. They did a shirt making fun of the entire thing, which, by the way, sold out. So the Evil shirts always sell really, really well, which is one of these things that I feel never gets brought up when people are talking about how he's killing the company. But yeah, there was this shirt that was like Evil and Dick Togo are 100% Bullet Club, which I thought was really funny. And yeah, the shirt, like they had to print another round of it or something because it was like sold out so fast. I saw like that tweet on the Japanese Twitter. But yeah, so it was they kind of played off it with a shirt, but like from their perspective, they're like, we have two heel units kind of with really at this point it's the War Dogs and the House of Torture, and then like there's a few other, you call it like unaffiliated Bullet Club people like Chase and Kenta, but like the important people at this point are either in House of Torture or in the War Dogs, and like it feels like they could go to a feud with the two of them at some point if they want to do that, but they don't really feel like they have to do that. So I kind of get it. They're just kind of going to keep that one in the holster if they ever want to use it, but they don't really see any reason to officially say, oh, well, Evil's House of Torture is not in Bullet Club just for the sake of saying it, But people wanted to see that happen here, I guess.
Well, it was the first chance to make something out of it. So yeah. I think that's what people were upset about more than anything.
The next guy, third lowest in my block, was Tama Tonga at 3.36. He topped out at 3 3/4 for me, which was his match with Tomohiro Ishii. That was back on night number 4, I believe. Yes, night 4 from Sendai, which was the main event they had together on that show. His lowest rated match, I had his match with Mikey. I went 2 3/4. I don't have a ton to say about Tama. He didn't really do much for me in this tournament. He had a bunch of 3 1/4, some 3 1/2. He just was kind of a guy to me. Like he didn't stand out in a negative way, didn't really stand out in a positive way, just kind of had some matches.
Yeah, and he was strongly booked. He was one of the guys at the high end of my kind of card breakout that I do before the tournament starts. But he kind of landed exactly there. He landed third in the block and alive all night, or alive until the last night. He had the draw with Shingo, 4-2-1. Just where you'd imagine him in the top third, but not going through.
Next guy's tied in rating for me. I had Hanare, or two guys tied with average star rating. I had Hanare at 3.54. He had 2 different matches at 4 1/4 that, his 2 best matches. So the one I had higher was the Shingo one, also from night 4 in Sendai at 4 1/4. And then his other 4 1/4 match with Ishii was at night 12 in Hiroshima. So, 2 awesome matches, exactly what you'd expect, the 2 of them slugging it out. I was a little disappointed by his match with Eddie Kingston. I thought that was going to be better than it was. It ended up being 3 1/2. So, maybe they just, now that they're feuding, I'm wondering if they just decided to save some stuff for, down the line when they're going to rematch. So I guess that's possible. But, even though that wasn't his lowest rated match, I had a couple of 3. That one I thought was a little disappointing. But still, he had a pretty good tournament. I mean, 2 4 1/4 star matches, nothing to sniff at there. And the new makeover was cool too.
Totally, and he I was gonna say he showed up in a way that sets him up to have a spot here for a long time, and I think that's my takeaway from Hanare's tournament is that he deserves to be here too. In a way that might be really meaningful long term because he's kind of taking on that Ishii mentality of just always giving his all no matter if he's in or out.
Then the other guy tied at 3.54 for me was David Finlay, which, he had 2 4-star flat matches with Shingo and Eddie, and then another 3 3/4 with Ishii that I liked a lot, and then everything else kind of like 3 to 3 1/2. He's a guy who I like him, from a certain perspective. Like he gets in the ring, he has good matches. He never finds that next gear to being like awesome consistently to me. Like that's what he's missing. He does have he had a couple great matches here with Eddie and with Shingo. He had an awesome match with Ospreay in the quarterfinals. But again, I mean, awesome match with Will Ospreay. Not that, all due respect to Finlay, not that hard to do. He just doesn't find that next gear for me to be like consistently great. And he really can be boring quite a lot of the time for me. Like if I was going to pick one guy who New Japan was pushing at a level higher than I personally want to see them, obviously for most people it would be Evil. I think for most people listening, or a lot of people listening to this, a lot of people seem to think Evil's pushed too high. For me, it's David Finlay. Like Finlay just feels like he has not he has not grown into this role yet for me as the War Dogs leader. He's like the least interesting part of a really cool new heel unit to me where, if Gabe kicked him out tomorrow and took over, I'd be really happy, honestly. And again, this is a guy I gave a 3.54 average to. I'm not saying he's horrible or anything, but like he's not breaking through to that next level to me either. And when he's now a faction leader and a guy that, is going to be in charge of this thing, to me, he has to be doing a little better than this to really like live up to that role. And I don't quite think he's there yet. Maybe he still has time to get there, but he's not doing much for me in this role as like the Bullet Club leader. And I just don't, I think he's very, I'd be very interested in seeing somebody Ursip him and send him back down to the mid-card, because I think he's a great mid-card. I mean, he always had good matches, in FinJuice and in New Japan Cups and G1s, the G1 last year, but I think he's a little overpushed here as a faction leader.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit of a trajectory up where he was really starting to get it, and when he was in the phase of like collecting new guys, I felt like he was really hitting a stride about like how to talk about it and how to talk about where he was going. And then he was kind of solo for most of this tour, just him and Gato. He didn't have a ton of interaction with the rest of the Bullet Club War Dogs, and he fell a little flat. So I'm wondering if he gets back with the unit, if that looks a little bit different. Because I do think he started to find he had a little bit of a different look. He's starting to find I do think he's making his way towards the what the look and what the attitude is going to end up being. But I think I largely agree with you, but I've also seen some progress, so I'm hopeful that some more interaction with the group will kind of help bring him into that kind of mentality of these kind of like douchebag heel guys that are the War Dogs.
Up next, I have in third place for the average star rating for C Block, I have Eddie Kingston at a 3.68. He peaked very high. I had a 4.5 star match with him and Ishii. I mean, you figured that would be awesome, and it was. That was night 8 in Corkin Hall. He had a couple other 4-star matches with Shingo and Finlay. And then other than those 3 matches, I kind of just thought he was there. I mean, he had 3 different 3.25 star matches and a 3.5. So, I mean, he peaked high. He had 2 great matches and one really, really awesome match. And the rest of the tournament, he just kind of was a dude to me. So, we talked about his booking. He was booked pretty strongly going to 4-3. Obviously, he's a strong champion. And I definitely liked having him in the G1. I mean, it's always great to have an outside guy, mix it up with the New Japan guys. But, besides the top end, I just thought he was a little underwhelming.
He loved it, though. He had a great time.
It was great. It was great seeing him like live his dream. I mean, that stuff is awesome.
It's cool. So at least there's that. I mean, and I am a fan of Eddie Kingston's position in both companies, or all 3 companies he really works for. I think he's generally utilized correctly. And I think that carried over to this G1. I think he landed about where we would expect him to, and I think he got to do a full tour of Japan in the biggest tournament of the year, and he's a guy that literally everyone roots for. If you're rooting against Eddie Kingston, I have questions. So it was cool to see. I'm glad he did it. I don't know that I would take him as a perennial G1er, just because the novelty will wear off a little bit, but damn, did he have a good time, and I love to see that.
It was great when he met Kawada too. That was awesome.
I mean, that's just such a cool video.
Second place for average rating, I have Shingo Takagi at a 3.96, so obviously a big jump here. I had one match of his under 4 stars, which was his match with Tamatonga at 3.5. Everything else was 4 flat, except for his match with Hanare that I went 4.25 on. So that match was my favorite Shingo match. That was back on night 4 in Sendai. So just a consistent, great tournament. Maybe not like the super, super highs you would see. When I got like 5 matches exactly at 4 stars. He's had better G1s, honestly, but like, he's still still obviously one of the best wrestlers in the tournament, and still had himself a great little tournament here.
One of the best in the world still, even though kind of quietly on this tour, but he's still Shingo.
And number 1, very shocking, Tomohiro Ishii. the highest star rating in the block, exactly 4.00. So not that much higher than Shingo, but did finish number one. My highest rated match for him was, again, that match for Eddie Kingston from Cork and Hall at 4.5. Had a couple, had a 1 4.25 star match for Hinare, and a couple more 4 flats, and 3 other matches 3 3/4. So never went lower than 3 3/4 on an Ishii match in this tournament. So, he's just one of the greatest in-ring wrestlers of all time, certainly in the G1. I mean, can't really argue against that.
Yeah, he can't seem to find a win to save his life, but he's gonna keep showing up and giving it all.
He did finally win on the last night, right?
He was 2-5. Yeah.
Oh, 2-5. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's kind of 4-point Ishii these days. It's been a long time since he had like a contending G1, but I'll watch him wrestle all day. He's as good as it gets.
We'll finish up with the much maligned D block, which was carried by 2 wrestlers, in my opinion, as we'll get to in the average star ratings. So the bottom here was 2 wrestlers tied at the bottom at 3.04. First of all, Toru Yano. I mean, it feels very silly to break down Yano's star rating, so I'm not even going to bother. But, he had some funny matches. What is there to say about Yano? He had some funny matches.
He kept it brief. 5:51 average match length and only 40 minutes of actual match time. So that's about as light of a Yano dose as you can get. So that's good. They have that going for him.
The guy tied for last for me, and this man was possibly my biggest disappointment the entire tournament, was Alex Coughlin, also at 3.04. He just never clicked for me in this tournament at all. I mean, he topped out at 3.5. I went 3.5 with Yano, Cobb, and Naito, and that 3.5 with Naito was like the worst non-Yano match I thought Naito had in the block. And Naito he was having awesome matches with great to awesome matches almost everybody else in this tournament for me, and they just went on there on that I think like second to last D block night, and they just kind of had a match. I mean, really not much to it, just a good little match, but like, given what Naito was doing with everybody else, I just thought that was really underwhelming. You had some crappy matches with Shane Haste and Tanahashi that I went like 2.25 and 2.5 on. He just did not do anything for me in this tournament. I mean, especially compared to his partner in A block. Now, granted, Gabe Kidd had more to work with in A block, so that is the one thing worth pointing out.
Sort of. You had a lot of established guys in D block, though.
Yeah. A lot of guys who were banged up or I mean,
managing minutes for sure.
But yeah, he just didn't do anything in this tournament to really stand out to me as a singles guy. And I like his team with Kidd. I like their matches with Bishamon a lot, and I hope they continue doing well. And I think Coughlin will have more to show here, but he did not have a great tournament for me at all.
Yeah, I still like him, and I do think if he's kind of gonna go with the like monster guy that like is taking direction from someone, and he's the muscle, then I think that's a good role for him. So we'll see where that lands him. Back with the tag team, and then back with the group too. If he's just always taking direction and not having to be single solo guy, I think that might be the right lane for him. But he did get the win over Tanahashi. That was his thing. So everyone gets a thing trademark. So
beat him clean too.
Pretty clean. About as clean as you can do it.
Third from the bottom for me was Hiroshi Tanahashi with a 3.18 average. So look, Tanahashi, there's no nice way to say it. He did look pretty washed for a lot of this tournament. Just as he did kind of going in. I mean, there were a lot of underwhelming matches for me in this tournament for Tanahashi. I mean, even stuff like with guys who he had great matches with in the past, like Cobb, I went only 3 stars on, and Zach 3.5 when they used to have like 4.25 in their sleep.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when Tanahashi really needed to come through on the final D block night in the main event, when I was really worried about how that match was going to go, given how bad I thought Tanahashi looked for a lot of this tournament, the guy came through. I mean, they had a 4.25 star match on night 16 in Hamamatsu. Tanahashi did the high fly flow to the outside. He did the high fly flow in the ring without really looking embarrassing or anything, and they got through that match and they had an awesome match again, which I really was not sure. Even for as much as I love Naito and have loved Tanahashi in the past, I really did not think they could do one more time the way have one more awesome match the way Tanahashi looked for a lot of this tournament. But they pulled it off. So, God bless him.
He had a week off between that. And I think that was the key. They wrestled their last match. His match with Coughlin was on the August 2nd, and then they did the Naito Tanahashi match on the 9th. So
yeah, that really helped him.
I think that helped a lot. And Tanahashi, he's taking a lot of bookings. I think he knows where he's at. But I think if he manages it down, he can still show up. Maybe he's not doing 40 singles matches in a year ever again, but I think if he's doing 9 or 10 or the G1 plus 3 or 4, I think we could still get some output for a couple of years. So I don't think the Tanahashi G1 train is going to end anytime soon.
My next two guys here both were tied at 3 1/4. First of all, Hiroki Goto. Goto was clearly hurt. He got hurt in the Naito match. He posted it on Twitter. It was very obvious. I'm not going to be too hard on him here, especially since I've still seen him have some really great tag matches this year. He had the match with Naito I thought was, a 4-star match. That was pretty awesome before he got hurt. And then somehow, I don't know if the injury just healed by then or, that week off you just mentioned for Tanahashi. He had an awesome fucking match with Zack on the last D Block night. That was just a 4 1/4 star match on that last D Block night with Zack Sabre Jr. So, that really helped.
It was crisp. That was a crisp match. Everything landed just right and all the holds looked good. That was as good as those two can do it.
So that was night 16 again, August 9th in Hamamatsu. Just an awesome match there. So he got it together by the end. Some stuff in the middle was rough, but what are you gonna do? He is old. Besides also being hurt, so tied 3 1/4.
G1 stands for geriatric.
Tied for 3 1/4 was Shane Haste. I had him peaking with the Naito match at 4 1/4 from Korakuen. I loved that match. I was a little higher than some other people I saw. I did see a couple other people go 4 1/4 though, so not totally on an island. But yeah, Naito and Shane Haste. That was from the night 8, I think, at Korakuen. Yes, God, what the hell is it? Yes, night 8 at Korakuen on July 26th. So that match was awesome. I also had Haste with a 4-star match against Zack, where they just worked that friendly technical match that I really liked, and then kind of started slapping each other, which so it got more intense. So I liked that one a lot too. Other than that, I thought he kind of could be hit or miss. A couple matches I didn't love, like the Coughlin match and the Goto match, but good tournament. I think he's not the next big star or anything, but I thought he just like his partner, I thought he did a good job.
He filled a role, and I think that he did it well. So sometimes some of these guys are just role players. That's how you get to the point where you've got a winner.
The next guy, so in the top 3 of the D Block, I have in 3rd place Jeff Cobb at 3.43. My favorite match of his was against Zack Sabre Jr., which I went 4 1/4 on. So that one was back on night 8, also Korakuen, the main event they did where Cobb finally got to beat him after the draw and the loss for the TV title. Also went 4 stars on his match with Naito from night 1. Really nothing dragging him down here besides the Yano match. So just a good tournament for Cobb. Nothing that's going to knock your socks up again, but 2 strong matches here and then a bunch of 3.5, 3-star level stuff. So.
Yeah, and he got the win streak to start the tournament and then fall off, which is a nice arc. And it looks like he's got Naito coming up, so he'll have a cool run here through the fall.
2nd place, and the top 2 ended up being very close together, and these 2 guys really carried the block here. Zack Sabre Jr. with a 3.89 average star rating. They had an incredible match against each other, as they pretty much always do, and that brings up both their averages. So 4.5 stars. Obviously, my favorite Zack match from night 12 in Hiroshima. Just the chemistry these two had together is just so great. I don't think they've ever had anything even close to a bad match, and I'd have to really go back and check, but I'd be surprised if I ever went under 4 1/4 on any of their matches. They just have awesome matches every time. Zach also had 4.25 for me with Cobb in this tournament, with Goto, which we talked about, a 4-star flat match with Haste. I mean, his worst match was against Coughlin for me, which, I was hoping that would be a little better because Coughlin does have some, technical skill too. But I ended up going 3.25 on that. So, just another great tournament for Zach. I mean, he is a hell of a G1 wrestler. That is for sure.
And I think he's peaking or within the range of his kind of peak output. He's just on everywhere he goes these days. So, and he seems to have the energy. He's putting in a lot of work. So, hope they leverage something. I know the TV title thing is going really well, but I think they could, I would love to see an elevation from him.
And then my number 1 in D block for average rating, probably not surprising anyone listening that I have him ranked first, was Tetsuya Naito at a 3 yeah, I know, very shocking. At a 3.93 average, so really not that far ahead of Zach. But, his match with Zach, 4.5, some 4.25 stuff for Tanahashi and Haste, 4 stars flat with Cobb and Goto, and then 3.5 for Coughlin, 3 stars with Yano. So just plenty of great stuff here from Naito again, and he and Zach, like I said, really carried this block. So
yeah, and
in the semifinals, not even in
and
the
Naito obviously ramped up towards the end. He was very quiet towards the beginning. I mean, he was involved and active and doing and having good matches, but he really it really seemed to ramp up and
because the Zach match was towards the back too.
Right, and he was really kind of giving it a little bit extra. So I think he was scheduled to peak at the end, and he delivered. So it's by design.
All right, so let us quickly give our top 10 matches of the tournament. We kind of talked about them all already, so it's easy to just give a top 10. I'll give my top 10 first, I guess. In 10th place, I have Taichi and Yoshihashi from Night 9 at 4.25. 9th place, I should say, Sonata and Kaito Kiyomiya from Night 7 at Korakuen Hall, also 4.25. Then everything from 8th through 3rd is all 4.5. So Ishii and Kingston in 8th from Night 8 at Korakuen. Naito versus Zach, Night 12 in Hiroshima. Then in 6th place, Narita and Kiyomiya, Night 13 in Osaka. 5th place, Ospreay and ELP, Night 14 in Osaka. In 4th place, Okada and Taichi, Night 5 in Nagaoka. And then 3rd place, Taichi and Ospreay, Night 1 in Hokkaido. And then the top 2, in 2nd place, Naito and Okada from the final in Sumo Hall, Night 19. And 1st place, Naito and Ospreay, Night 18, the semifinal from Sumo Hall. So both of those would be 5-star matches for me. So, not a top 10 I think is going to blow anybody's minds, but, just those are the 10 matches I would most recommend checking out. I'm sure most people listening are going to watch at least the semifinal and the finals, so.
Yeah, so I'll do mine. So my number 10, kind of a hat tip to Evil. Shingo versus Evil, I thought was just the best version of that match. Just a complete mess, and I kind of loved it. That was from August 8th from the Yokohama Budokan. My number 9 was Tomohiro Ishii versus Eddie Kingston from July 26th from Korakuen Hall. Number 8 was Okada versus Taichi on July 21st from Nagaoka. My number 7 was Kiyomiya versus Sonata. That was on July 25th at Korakuen Hall. I just thought that was such a cool moment that they really took it down to the wire. Really a fun kind of ending to that match. Number 6, Naito versus Tanahashi, turning back the clock. I really enjoyed what they were able to accomplish, given their advanced experience in the G1. That was on the 9th of August from Act City Hamamatsu. My number 5 was Kiyomiya versus Narita from the 5th of August from Edion Arena, Osaka. My number 4 was Will Ospreay versus El Phantasmo. That was from the 6th of August, also in Edion Arena, Osaka. Number 3, one of my favorite matches, one of those matches I'll remember for a long time just because I thought it was so well done. Ospreay versus Taichi. That was on the 15th of July from Hokkaido. That was night 2. Night 1. Thank you. Number 2, Naito versus Okada, the final from Ryogoku. We talked extensively about that one. Just an incredible display. It's tough for me to. It's a coin flip between my number 2 and my number 1. But Naito versus Ospreay was just such a display, such a unique match, a unique finish to the match. That was on the 12th from Ryogoku. I think that's the front runner for my match of the year at this time, because I think it'll be the most memorable match I watch this year.
There you go. All right, want to very quickly touch on AEW so I can put it in the title and get some more downloads?
Absolutely. Here to help.
Because we're here. We do.
I'm a collider.
You are literally a collider, yeah.
I kind of am, and I'm a little embarrassed about it.
It's just kind of funny because as we're doing this and going through the blocks, like apparently AEW is folding, I guess. Just going
again.
Again,
they're going under.
Things are going insane over there with all this Punk shit and Paige, and apparently Paige showed up at Collision, and then they told him to go the fuck home, and it's really because like they told him to stay away from the arena, even though he was supposed to be there to film something for Dynamite, and then Punk said that shit after the show. It's like, okay, whole big mess over there. But yeah, let's touch on All In and All Out since it's such a unique 2 pay-per-views coming up. Obviously, All In is Sunday, August 27th, from the or is it Saturday? No, Sunday. Sunday, August 27th, from the Wembley Stadium. The tagline is the biggest event in wrestling history, and they missed the part where they said, even though we announced a card like 4 weeks out, like any other pay-per-view. But they don't have an entire card yet, actually, 2 weeks out.
Not even close.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. Like, there's been a lot of card changes, basically. And then All Out is a week later from Chicago at the United Center, a show that we will both be attending. So that'll be interesting to see a pay-per-view a week later.
We probably won't even know what's on the show until you all start traveling into Chicago.
I mean, look, I'm gonna have a good time. We have a private suite again that we did for Vendor last year, and I'll probably get very wasted again. So I'm not gonna worry that much.
And the real main event, for those who don't know, is the Samsa barbecue. So I mean, the show is great and all, but for me.
It is funny when I told my partner Nicole that I wanted to go to this, and she's like, "You're a big enough AEW fan to fly all the way to Chicago just for the show?" And I'm like, "Really? The draw is just to hang out with everybody. Like, I don't know what to say."
Right.
It's like
it's the Voices of Wrestling Summit is what it is.
I mean, I like AEW. I mean, I like the promotion. I think people will like tell me that people will tell me that I hate it. Like, especially on the VOW Discord, they love telling me that I hate AEW. When I'm like, the time I spend watching it and the amount of money I spend going to these shows, even the local ones, like, would not indicate that I don't hate it, actually. But please tell me what I like or dislike. I do think this year, 2023, has been really chaotic for them in a pretty bad way. And, like, the booking has not been very good. The roster is so good in AEW. I mean, this is such a collection of talent that they will frequently overperform and have great matches and have great shows, even when I think the booking is really kind of out of its mind at this point. So, that's kind of why I still watch, because most of the time I still enjoy a lot of the roster. I still enjoy a lot of the matches, even if I think, having 5 matches for All In 2 weeks out is not ideal. So
it's not great, Bob.
Let's go over what those 5 matches are. Actually, I'm sorry. We have 4 matches for All In and 1 match for the All In buy-in. So, technically.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So, the matches we have so far that are official. First of all, we have on the buy-in Aussie Open, who are still in the United Empire. They got that new entrance video and theme song they have for the unit. They're still featured at the end of the, prominently featured as members. So, I thought that was interesting. Even though, obviously, they did sign with AEW. But they're defending their Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles here and in the buy-in against MJF and Adam Cole. It's a very interesting match, obviously, because MJF and Cole are going to meet later on that night for the AEW World Title in the main event. So, to me, there's so many different ways I could go with this that I'm interested. Besides the fact that Aussie Open are awesome, I just want to see, is Cole going to turn on MJF here? Is it going to be some kind of situation where Cole... because I think Cole is going to be the one to be the heel at the end of this feud. And I'm like, is it going to be a situation where Cole just turns on him here and leaves him laying, or is it going to be more subtle, like where like the MJF gets laid out, but it's not clear that it's really Cole's fault, but that was his plan all along, or I don't know. I think something like that's going to happen. I think, but I guess we'll have to say.
Yeah, I have a tough time caring about this because I'm just so like. I look at it and I say, like, you have 1,000 wrestlers on your roster and these two are going to wrestle twice. Like, I get it. You want to bookend the show with with an angle, basically. I just think there's a better way. So I don't ever like someone being booked to wrestle twice. I think that's silly.
Unless it's like a tournament.
Yeah. Unless it's the end of a tournament and it's the semis and the finals or whatever. But these guys have a world title match later that night. Like, why are we messing around with a tag title match? I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It's on the buy-in. I get it. And I get what they're doing. I also I don't think they're a great matchup for Aussie Open, and I want those guys to succeed. Yeah. So
they were so awesome on that Fortizana show I went to where they won the tag.
Oh yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
The all-in card, the card itself of the pay-per-view, we have Darby Allin and Sting against the Mogul Embassy, the worst named stable in wrestling right now, I think, Mogul Embassy.
But they're pretty cool.
They are cool, but they have a horrible name. So Darby Allin and Sting taking on Swerve Strickland and AR Fox with Prince Nana in a tag team coffin match. Okay, I don't know why we need.
So intrigued by that. Are there two coffins, or is it one big coffin, or just one?
Has there ever been a tag team coffin match before?
I doubt it. It sounds pretty outrageous.
Didn't Undertaker and Kane do it once against Heidenreich and Stitsky or some shit?
Oh my god, that's way out of my depth.
I gotta look this up. Let's see. How many fucking Heidenreich matches are there? So let's see. Heidenreich, Cage. Probably easiest thing to do is look up Heidenreich on Cage Match. He has a 3.4 rating on Cage Match for those wondering.
That's not good.
Yeah.
It's not a 10, folks.
So let's go back. It would have been in 2004, 2003. Let's just search Undertaker. That would be easy. No, okay. So it was just a casket match where they both ran in, I think. Okay. That's right. Royal Rumble 2005. So
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that was like the plan, I think, for WrestleMania that year, and the Undertaker got it changed to him and Randy Orton because he's like, I'd like to have a good match, actually. But I remember that. I don't know if it was supposed to be Coffin, but it was definitely supposed to be Undertaker and Kane against Heidenreich and Snitsky. But anyway,
so most curious about how that works. But yeah, that'll be Sting spectacle stuff. I'm into that.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, in front of that big giant crowd too. Crowd's going to elevate a lot of this, and they'll probably elevate this. But yeah, so I don't think it really matters who wins this. I mean, Darby does have a TNT title shot on the show the next week. But
seriously, it doesn't. I don't think it really matters.
But the angle to set this up was awesome too, with them destroying poor Nick Wayne in his own home.
Oh yeah,
that was just such a great angle. We have the tradition continuing of the 4-way match for the AEW Women's World Title: Hikaru Shida, Toni Storm, Saraya, and then either Britt Baker or the Bunny. We're gonna find out this Wednesday on Dynamite. Probably Britt Baker. Who could it be?
Who will it be?
I don't know. But yeah, look, what do you want me to fucking say about this? The women's division AEW is dog shit. I think we all know it's dog shit. Even the people who act like it isn't dog shit must know it's dog shit. They don't book it strongly. They don't book it in an interesting way. And there's no greater example than what they did for this show. So why even bother giving it any... There's nothing else to say about it, really. It's just let's give it all the attention that they're giving it,
You had to get Saraya on the show, and
really?
they did.
You had to get Saraya on the show, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think. I mean, as soon as the show was announced, everyone was just like running off lists of British wrestlers that like could be available. So, yes, I believe you had to get Saraya on the show.
I get what you mean, but I'm just like,
it is a shame that Jamie Hayter's not on this show. That she's not healthy, because she. I don't know. She elevated a lot of that division for a long time.
I would assume Hikaru Shida's going to retain here. I don't really know why you change the title.
Yeah, and she's on fire right now too.
Saraya is so bad. Toni Storm was just champion, and Britt Baker apparently never wants to be champion again. So, would assume Shida retains.
Is that part of the rumors?
That's what she's. I mean, I think that's a quote.
Oh, really?
I could be wrong. I could have sworn she just said that one time that she doesn't like being champion because, or she doesn't ever want to be champion again because it just puts a target on your back or something. Backstage.
Oh. Backstage.
Yeah,
I was like, that's the point.
That is the point. Yes.
Of being champion, but yeah, I wouldn't want to get involved in anything backstage there.
Yeah, might be hiding in the bathroom or something like these.
But
the second biggest match I guess announced so far is FTR defending the AEW World Tag Team titles against the Young Bucks. I'm sure it'll be great. I mean, first of all, it'd be pretty shocking if it wasn't. I would assume FTR is winning this. I can't see them agreeing to do this match unless the Young Bucks had agreed to put them over. I could be wrong there, but it just seems really, they just don't seem like the kind of team that would be like, yeah, give us the Young Bucks again and we'll be happy to do the JOB to them, brother. I don't see that. I think they convinced the Bucks to job to them, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of assumed that this is the match, or this would be the type of match that lands on this type of show, because they knew they weren't going to have a ton of time to build it, and then they're not using the time that they do have. So, the matches that you keep in your back pocket that have never been in front of a crowd like this, or a crowd that's this big, obviously, these are the matches you pull out of your pocket and you just run them. So you don't need to this one. If people are complaining about this one not having a build, it's built.
It doesn't need one. Yeah.
You just have to literally open the door. The house is there. So this will be great. And, it's going to be top tier of what they're able to accomplish. There's going to be a lot of energy in that building. So I'm excited for this one.
The main event, of course, MJF defending the AEW World Title against Adam Cole. I don't really care about this. I mean, it's not for me. I don't really care about MJF or Adam Cole, especially Adam Cole. I get that it's incredibly over. They've done a great job getting it over in the buildings. The vignettes that hurt the interest in this for me don't seem to have done that for a lot of other people. So, if you're looking forward to this, I'm not trying to piss in your cornflakes. I'm happy for you. It's just not like anything I'm counting down the days for or anything. But, I'm intrigued to see what happens, right? I said that before we talked about the tag title match. But I'm not looking forward to this as some kind of all-time great match. I don't. Adam Cole very rarely hits that level for me, especially. But I am looking forward to seeing what happens. The fact that there's no other obvious challenger for MJF for All Out the week later makes me think we're in a This Tuesday in Texas situation where Cole is going to beat MJF with shenanigans and turn heel on him, and they're going to do the immediate rematch a week later. That just seems like the most obvious thing to me as far as what they're going to do for the world title on these two shows. But of course, as always, I could be wrong. So
yeah, it's the hottest match they've got right now. So you run it, I think, and it's been fun. I've had a good time with it. I see a lot of rock and sock connection, and I think that's probably a little bit intentional. So I'm hopeful that the match delivers. I'm hopeful that the tag match earlier in the night leads to something, but early in the afternoon, I guess for me, I'll be watching with the sun up. So that'll be a nice feature of this show. It'll be over by the time the sun goes down. So it's all. The show to me is mostly about about the vibes. Whatever the vibes are at this one, I think the whole show is gonna thrive off of that. So, I just hope they put together some more matches over the next couple of days here, so we can start to get hyped on it, and I can maybe pull some data points for these for my friends.
The matches that are not yet announced, but either rumored or heavily or even teased in some cases. So it looks like we're getting Punk versus Joe for the quote-unquote Real World's title. They kind of confirmed that last night with the angle with Joe choking out Punk at the end of the night. So that match is not quite confirmed yet, but very likely. The other one that's been rumored and they started teasing when Jay White brought up the Elite out of nowhere in a promo yesterday is apparently we're getting Kenny, Ibushi, and Hangman Page against Takeshita, Jay White, and Juice Robinson. Given how strong some of these 6-man and like multi-man tags have been on these AEW pay-per-views historically, and the talent here, the big crowd, I mean, that could be a really awesome match. So
yeah, I think the card's gonna turn out to be good on paper and then good in delivery too. So I'm not worried about it, but I don't stress myself over that stuff because this is what AEW does. This is how they book their stuff. Like, I know everyone wanted them to do it differently, and there's podcasters screaming into microphones about it, but it's pretty much how they operate.
Yeah.
I know there's some backstage stuff starting to come out this evening, it seems like, but I guess maybe my brain's been in Japan for a couple weeks now, so I was able to let all the AEW drama go. So now I'm a little more intrigued with how things are going now that I have less of my beloved New Japan to keep my heart busy.
And then the other rumored match, there are 2 other rumored matches that aren't confirmed yet. Or one of them, I guess, kind of has been teased on TV. Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta from the BCC against Orange Cassidy, Eddie Kingston, and question mark, not X, question mark, because as of the time it was reported, they didn't know who the third guy was going to be. So we'll have to wait and see who that's going to be.
Yeah, I think Wembley is a get everyone on the card kind of show. So and with good reason for that matter. I think you want to get all your stars out in front of that many people. So a 6-man tag that potentially leads to a singles or 2 a couple weeks later,
or a week later.
Not a couple weeks later, a week later. I think that's fine. It's not, and people might say like, oh, that's Road 2 style. Like, I don't really read it that way. I think because AEW does still kind of advance things in multi-person matches. Like they're still like meaningful. You're not just like getting some practice rounds in. So
Yeah.
I do think that there's some potential in a match like that to be really, really great.
The final rumored match is Will Ospreay against Chris Jericho, perhaps now for the IWGP UK title since it's been rechristened. Look, I can't sit here and tell you I'm excited about this match in 2023. There's so many better ways to use Will Ospreay than putting up against Jericho at the current state of Jericho. But am I going to bet against him having a great match anyway since it's Will Ospreay? No. But I would have much rather seen Ospreay against, I don't know, name a guy. There's plenty of people on this roster. But
the Jericho thing works with story too, though, with the Callis stuff. So I mean, and maybe that's just the way they're getting there. But and who knows? I mean, Ospreay's gonna wrestle Marufuji, a couple weeks later. So maybe Ospreay's clearing out some bucket list stuff. So you got to keep an eye on that, and Jericho might be a part of that.
So there's your all-in card. Which if the 4 matches that I just mentioned all end up being part of it, I'm like you kind of said, I'm not really worried about it being a bad show. I think it'll be in front of that atmosphere, in front of that crowd. I'm sure it'll be a really good show. The show that I'm less convinced they'll be able to pull off is All Out a week later, where we really don't even have much rumored for this show yet. We have Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin for the TNT title is the only confirmed match. That's it's gonna be a match. I mean, I don't. Darby's great, and I'm sure he'll bounce off him well, but Luchasaurus is kind of limited. The 2 rumored matches now, if Kenny versus Takeshita 1-on-1 happens at All Out, I mean that's like a match of the year contender type match. That's the potential that match has. And then the other rumored match is Jon Moxley against Orange Cassidy for the international title, which could also be like a low key match of the year contender. So that's a good start. But that's 3 matches. So I don't know what else we're doing. Like I said earlier, maybe a Cole MJF match off of Cole screwing him or something, because I don't know what other direction they have for the world title only a week later. Maybe Punk and Ricky Starks again, which I am not at all excited for if that's the direction. But I don't know. I think he's suspended.
Punk and someone.
Yeah, he's suspended for 30 days, so I don't think he can do it now. In kayfabe suspended. So right. I don't know who it's going to be. But, the All-Out card, it's going to be even more last minute because of the thing being a week after All In, so we'll have to wait and see. But I'd say 2 out of the 3 matches the 2 rumored matches would be a really good start, but we have to see if they're actually announced.
Yeah, and honestly, if they really want to light the fire, they'll just do Punk versus the champion.
Locker room. Oh, okay.
There's that too.
Both
a lot of options for Punk.
In and out of character. In character, it looks like he's feuding with the entire roster, and out of character, he's feuding with even more people. So,
people he's not allowed to talk to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that's the easy one you've got in your back pocket for Chicago, though. So MJF, I guess, probably versus Punk could be. I mean, that would be hot. Just immediately, as soon as you announced it, it would be on fire. But I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna stretch that out. If we're gonna just keep the X belt rolling around.
Yeah, I kind of had to get the feeling that's probably Full Gear's main event. Just could be my opinion, but
yeah,
I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me. I'm maybe wishful thinking that I would love for them to, because it would also be kind of the, well, it'd be a little full circle because last year's All Out was the moment between Punk and MJF for that matter. So, but they don't really do that. There's been a bunch of times I pointed to like, yeah, this would be the show because it's the 1 year anniversary or blah 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 blah. They don't put that much into that type of stuff, and I kind of wish they would. Not just for Chicago, like other places or other dates too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It'll be fun. We'll have a great time either way.
I mean, I have zero worry about that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll have a great time. All right, buddy. We did almost 3 fucking hours, which I can't believe.
We sure did, and I already did one of these today.
You have been talking and talking.
Yeah, but I didn't talk much during the tournament, so I feel good about it. I'm glad we got to connect and do some special audio, and I'm happy and honored to have been a part of it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I mean, you were the first guy I thought of, so it's always good to get your first pick. Sometimes when I used to have to schedule these weekly, you wouldn't get like your 5th pick. So you never know,
Yes.
But yeah, there we go. So, folks, if you still have the Bird app, you can follow us on there at Wrestle Omakase. Get notified when we do our annual podcast, our once a year podcast. I don't have anything else to plug. I mean, I'm on Twitter. I'm on X. I'm on X or whatever the fuck it's called. I'm also on Blue Sky if you're on there. If you want to look for me, I'm at just1MB on Blue Sky. So look out for that one. I don't. Anything you want to plug, Chris? I mean, you have Sport of Pro Wrestling.
I do have Sport of Pro Wrestling that'll actually turn into a really functional space soon. We're gonna do some cool stuff with that. But yeah, my Twitter handle has been plugged to death if you've been watching the G1. So I am the Chris Samsa. I'm also that on just a couple, just an embarrassing amount actually sometimes. I think most of the time, sometimes at this point I'm kind of like they know where it's coming from. But I mean, it's not that I don't appreciate it. I think it's also still really cool. And my wife still has to like look at me if she like catches me like watching it and I don't react to it. She's like, "Hey, that's you. They're talking about you on television, so it's neat."
I got the plug one time. I don't remember for what anymore. It was like I think for like some fucking article about some article about something. It was years ago now, and it definitely felt good. So
it's cool.
You get it all the time. So
oh yeah, it's super cool. It will always be cool.
Yeah.
But, after 20 shows or whatever, 19 shows in 28 days, I'm kind of like, okay. I mean,
they know, Kevin.
It is very kind of them to use the work and to provide the credit for it. So yeah, the Chris Samsa. I'm that on all social media. If you want to find me, I pretty much am still stuck in the Twitter X app, but if that should die, I am on the Blue Sky and I am on the Threads, and
Isn't
I am
that already dead?
It's pretty much dead. I've never posted on Blue Sky or Threads, but I am there. So if you want to find me and drop me a line, I'm happy to chat. Happy to be around.
I cannot wait until Rich Craich sees this and it's like, you only podcast once a year. You went like 3 hours. I'm like, yeah, buddy.
He'll know. Just blame me. I don't know if I can do a podcast under 3 hours. It's like my thing.
But it's going to be over 3 hours with the theme song and everything. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in 2024. Probably for Wrestle Kingdom, honestly. After Naito wins the Dome, that'll probably be the next episode. If I remember to pack my microphone when I go to Japan. So, thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time.
Hola, hola, my name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. We are a Spanish speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AEW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your Lucha Libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling podcast network. Nos vemos por ahí.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.